Those of the Beasley Broadcast Group, its staff, advertisers, or agencies. Now, here's Neil Rogers on 560 QAM.
It's Friday, you bastard.
Have inept election officials left you confused? Here is your guide to understanding how to cast your vote in Palm Beach County, Florida. Follow along with me to see just how easy it can be. Let's get started, shall we? Joining me here in the booth is Mr. Mermelstein. Who are you voting for?
I'll leave it.
Yeah, I see. Now, read the butterfly ballot, starting with Bush Cheney in the left column, Buchanan, Chickel-Gruber, Mengele, Heitman, and Goebbels in the right.
Where's our Lieberman?
Over there.
This Goebbels guy.
Yes?
Is this the guy who makes my baby food?
No. Now simply punch a hole in the 1959 Univac key punch card.
Okay, where? There.
Over there. Here. Use this microscope.
Oh, there. Is that it?
No.
Okay, I'll punch again. Is this
No. That invalidates your vote.
All right, yeah, I'll punch again. And another.
Do that again. I'll punch you.
One more for good measure.
Why, you... Tottering old heed. Remember, comrades, if you want to live in Florida, exercise your right to vote in accordance to the little brother.
Well, you know, that's what James Baker said. He said, F those old Hebes because they don't vote for us anyway. That's what he told Papa Bush back in 92, 91, whatever the hell it was. Anyway, 327 votes, that's the difference right now. They've all been counted again, recounted, but you know what? The recounting isn't done. And, of course, we don't have those overseas. I got a real exclusive here today. I just started a rumor that there's like 7 million old Jews in Israel whose overseas ballots haven't come in yet. That's what I'm hearing. I don't want to get any Bush lookers out there nervous. I'm hearing there's 22 million old Jews in Israel, and those absentee ballots are going to be cracking in here in these next few days.
Always loved those Israelis.
Yeah. See, there you go. Told you. Palestinians ain't going to help. First of all, let me just apologize for the unbelievable amount of misinformation that we get from assholes out there. See, one thing I should have learned a long time ago, that no matter what you hear on the other end of this phone, what you hear on this end of the phone, a lot of times, I'm screwed up. But what you hear on the other end of the phone, discard 99% and be very dubious about the rest of it. Like the guy that called a couple of days ago and said, oh yeah, they can tell who voted, who your ballot is. Guess what, sir? Anonymous ballots. In fact, there's a big article about that today, along with the other 10,000 big articles. It says, though each ballot has got a number printed on the top, that number is never attached to the voter's name. And before the ballot is cast and slipped into a box, the top of the identifying number is torn off and separated from the ballot. Secret ballots became common in the U.S. as all the way back in 1899. So this clown that gave me a big song and dance a couple of days ago, and they always do it very authoritatively, like they really know what they're talking about. Like that jackass that called with the 30,000 overseas ballots. It turns out there's like 2,000 or 3,000, but this guy had 30,000, and he's probably making a few of them up right now. Now the most significant thing that happened is that the judge in Palm Beach issued the injunction blocking Palm Beach County from certifying recount results until a hearing on Tuesday. Circuit Judge Kathleen Gore will decide whether the county's ballot was so confusing that it deprived voters of a choice. So Tuesday is the earliest we're really going to find out anything, in addition to which, of course, they've got till next Friday the 17th for those overseas ballots, the absentee ballots, to be counted. I thought it was ironic that on the news last night, oh, get this Buchanan off of there. Here we go. Again on CNN. Yesterday morning, he's sucking up with Katie Couric, and he's like, Gore should have most of those votes. They were voting for him. Then yesterday, I guess they straightened him out on Fox, on the Nazi News Network, because about 6 o'clock on Fox, they ripped him an ass from one side up the other, and by the time he got on with Larry last night, by the time he got on with the ass sucker last night, all of a sudden he was like, those people voted for me, and maybe some of them really wanted Gore, but they're my votes. They're my votes, and you're not getting them. Somebody really got to old Pat, I'll tell you that. But to make a long story short, by the 17th we've got the overseas ballots coming in, and we'll have a count on that. But that is relatively insignificant, because you've got, first of all, up in the air what's going to happen in Palm Beach, which I'll get to. And secondly, you've got the manual recount. See, the Republican Party and all their henchmen, as partisan as I am, they're all embarrassing to me because they're all in a feeding frenzy, but the Republicans are just plain out lying. These are the people that were going to restore dignity and morality back. They're flat out lying. They're doing two things. They're lying and they're threatening. First of all, this Karl Rove gets on there and comes up with this crap about, for William Daley to be talking about the butterfly ballot, that's a hot one because in Chicago, in his own city there, they use the butterfly ballot. Well, guess what? They use a butterfly ballot, but they don't have the same race on different pages. In other words, if it's the mayor's race on the left-hand page, all the candidates for mayor are on the left-hand page. If it's a dog catcher on the facing right-hand page, the candidates for dog catcher are on that page. They're opposite, and there's a space. They showed what the ballot are that they use in Chicago, and it's in no way related to this crazy thing that was in Palm Beach. Just another freaking lie. See, the whole concept of what really amounts to a bloodless coup, a bloodless attempt to take over the government by the Bush people and the Republican, the right-wingers, the whole concept is that we got to talk our way into it. If we just hurry it on up, which I don't understand what the hurry is. What's the rush? The electors have till December 18th to sit down and cast their votes from the various states. Today's only the 10th of November. So what's the big rush? And the big rush is, just like I told you yesterday, when there's a mistake and it comes out in your favor, well, let's hurry up and certify it until they find out what the real vote is. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and I know this as sure as I'm sitting in a chair, that George W. and all of his cronies know that Al Gore won this election. There is no question in my mind about that. In fact, even one of their highest attorneys, they wouldn't give his name on here yesterday. He wanted to be anonymous, and I can understand why. But one of their insider attorneys for the Republican Party said, if there's a revote in Palm Beach County, we know that Al Gore will be the next president. So that's an admission that they know that there are thousands and thousands of votes there that the Gore people got screwed out of. Now, does America want to elect the next president based on confusion, based on what is definitely an illegal ballot? Is that the way we want to do it?
No.
I don't think so. But don't tell that to the Bush people. They won it by hook or by crook. Not fair and square, but by hook or by crook. They stole it. And so anybody that gives a song to dance about, the Gore people are sour grapes and their attorneys and all these lawsuits. First of all, the lawsuits are coming from individuals who were deprived of their right to vote so far. That's where the lawsuits are coming. And then we also have the question, see, this whole way, I think one lesson that we should have learned a long time ago, this is no way to run a railroad. This is no way to hold an election. With paper ballots, with votes being counted or discarded or just ignored based on the chads on the back of paper ballots.
Or it wasn't pushed through.
Even Chad Stewart and Jeremy Clyde never had this much prominence as the chads on the back of your paper ballots, meaning those little tags on the back. If you punch the ballot and you don't punch it all the way through, that when they stack up all those cards, all the ballots, and they put them back in the computer for the recount, or just to count them the first time, the chads on many of them will close up again if they're not punched all the way through, and therefore they don't get counted at all. Now, if you think we're talking about a handful of votes, let me give you an example. It's called undervotes. It's right on the front page in the Herald. Undervotes, including both the ballots on which the hanging chad prevented a machine count and ballots where the voter deliberately chose not to punch a hole for a particular race. Now, how many do we have of those just in this area? Undervotes, 6,686 in Broward, 10,750 in Miami-Dade, and 10,000 in Palm Beach. Undervotes. And I'm not saying that all of those are chads, but let's say maybe 2,000 of them are. And right now we're looking at a difference of 327 votes. So if there's anybody in their right mind who thinks that Al Gore should concede at this point, or that George Bush is just going to be allowed to steal the election and get his entitlement and we coronate King George, ain't going to happen. Isn't going to happen. It would seem to me that any fair-minded person would say, as long as we're voting for something as important as president, let's get it right. Huh? Would you agree with that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let's get it right. There's no big rush. Except in the stock market, of course, where the Nasdaq's down 101. See, this is the key. This should tell you everything you need to know. Dow is down 115. It's only a little after 10 o'clock, and already the markets are in the crapper. They were talking before this morning on CNN about when they were watching the futures on election night, the futures markets. When Gore went ahead in Florida, when the networks declared Gore the winner in Florida at 7:50, the futures took a dive. They went in the toilet, and then later when they took that back, they went soaring. And then when they announced that Bush had won it, they went through the roof. And then guess what? Then when they said, well, we made a premature evaluation, then they went back into crapper again like they have the last 2 days. Because big business wants Bush. 10 past 10 at 560 WQ.
No portion of this program may be reproduced without the express written permission of WQAM Weekly Broadcast Group Incorporated.
Only in the Banana Republic, baby. Only in Miami.
Okay, 10:14 at 560 WQAM. Al Gore is up 4,000 votes in Oregon with 99% of the precincts counted. So it looks, they were saying this yesterday too. And here it is. Talk about a way to run a railroad and a way to conduct an election. Here it is Friday, 3 days after the election, and now we're just finding out about Oregon. And also the threats. This is what I really love about the fair-minded Republicans, the threats that are coming down. Well, you know, if you really push this and pursue it, even though, of course, we all know you really want Florida, but if you push it and pursue it, we got Iowa waiting in the wings, we got Wisconsin waiting in the wings, and we even have New Mexico waiting in the wings. But now that it looks like Gore is going to win Oregon almost certainly, that will give him with Florida and Oregon, let's see, 25 and 7 is 32, is 292 electoral votes. 292. And you need 270. So that means he could afford to lose 22 votes and still win, which could be like Iowa and Wisconsin is 18, or any combination of any two of those three if they wanted to force the issue. And then, of course, they also have waiting in the wings their million absentee ballots in California, which up till yesterday, I never heard anything about that. See, this is the thing with this absentee ballot business. Very mysterious. And I'll say it again, this business of, well, we had 350,000 absentee ballots in Florida, then all of a sudden, like midday on election day, well, you know something, it could be 500,000, and then 9 o'clock at night, well, guess what, it may be closer to 1 million. How can the supervisor of elections not know how many absentee ballots have been given out? In a state where we're now saying there's a margin of 329 votes out of 6 million plus votes cast, and we don't know how many absentee ballots were given out? You have to kind of... Oh, and then at Pat Buchanan, this guy must be on doing bad drugs. The Democrat pollster reject that they've been parading around on Fox, I guess, or MSNBC. On election day, he's talking about, well, you know, Florida in recent years, the elections down there are really clean. This isn't like Chicago or something.
I heard that.
And they were whipping him an ass on all the networks yesterday, and rightfully so. And they were all saying, can you name any state where there's more corruption between Hialeah and Miami? We've had more goddamn bogus elections. And, of course, this state is not only famous for fixed elections, this state is famous for hanky-panky elections. If you're for it, you vote no. If you're against it, you vote yes. Election time is not a time to get something done fairly. It's time to play games. Just like Mayor Pinga Pequeno got elected. Oh, yeah, we're not going to support Mickey Harrison with that arena. And that was the main issue that he got elected on, is that they weren't going to spend taxpayer money to build an arena for Mickey Harrison, a billionaire. And then all of a sudden, like 5 minutes after he got elected and the votes were certified, oh, well, guess what? He made us an offer we couldn't refuse. What a joke that is. Too bad about Joe Carollo's divorce, huh? Oh, it's not too bad? She finally wised up? Poor Loco Joe. Yeah, we're the laughing stock of the world again. Did you see that? They were talking about that at great length. Florida is the laughing stock of the world again because we can't do anything right. They've got all these dilapidated old machines from before Jesus was a baby. We got these crazy people. I mean, it's not just the broad up there in Palm Beach. It's not just her. But whoever the people were in Tallahassee who said, oh, yeah, that ballot looks logical to me. In addition to which, last night when they were having one of the rallies in Palm Beach, they pointed out a very good thing, and that is when you take the sample ballot, which, first of all, doesn't have any holes in it. But when you just hold it up and you look at it straight ahead, with the arrows, it looks very simple. But that's not what the ballot looks like. Because, first of all, not only are the holes all screwed up, and it's very illegal because the Gore hole should be second. You got the Bush hole, the Gore hole, and the asshole.
He's an asshole.
Buchanan, yeah. And the Gore hole has got to be second. That's part of the law. In addition to which, let me read once again the instructions that were handed to everyone who voted in Palm Beach County. To vote, use the punching instrument attached by chain to the vote-o-matic. Punch straight down through the hole to the right of the arrow by the candidate or issue of your choice. Is that right? Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Now, one of the greatest disgraces of all, and this is enough to make you cry. all the stories, reading about the thousands of people who were turned away in Broward, for example, and the thousands of black people who were turned away, and the thousands of people who thought that they had registered and were turned away. And this is the way we're going to elect the president? I'll say it again. Till the day they stick my ass in the ground, nobody will ever convince me that Gore didn't win this state. This is, talk about hanky-panky and a fixed election. This is it. I don't care what side you're on. The Buchanan votes, and how come it's taken them until today to finally start taking a look at this? Wouldn't that be the first thing you would look at as soon as you saw that bizarre? And this spin that they're trying to put on this about, well, you know, he got all those thousands of votes back in '96 in the primary, in the Republican primary. He was a Republican back then, you idiots. He wasn't an independent, a maverick candidate. In addition to which, everything is relative. You have to take a look at how many votes he got in all the other counties, including those far more conservative than Palm Beach, which is a pretty liberal county. But everything they got to spin for it. They're spinning it, trying to convince the public. Hope against hope that the public's going to buy the legitimacy of that crap. If there's anybody who believes those Buchanan votes, here's a story. Like I said, it's enough to make you want to cry. Throughout Florida, Reform Party candidate Pat Buchanan fetched 1 vote for every 167 votes cast for Al Gore, but at the VFW Post polling station in Riviera Beach, Buchanan received 13 out of 709 votes, 1 for every 50 cast for Gore. But Judy Davis, a county school board employee who votes at the Post, finds it odd that Buchanan votes at a predominantly African-American neighborhood would exceed the state average, or that Buchanan will receive any votes at all there. Buchanan has opposed virtually every civil rights law of the last generation. I do not believe 13 of my neighbors knowingly voted for Buchanan, said Davis, 45. I'm very, very angry and upset about this. But the Buchanan votes in predominantly black Riviera Beach were not the only surprises, and an astonishing election day in Palm Beach County. According to a Herald analysis of Palm Beach County election returns, Buchanan did surprisingly well in predominantly Jewish precincts in West Palm Beach, Boca Raton, and Delray Beach, as well as neighboring neighborhoods in Pahokee and Belgrade, where residents are mostly poor and minority. In Palm Beach County as a whole, only 337 voters registered as members of the Reform Party. Still, the conservative commissioner and columnists gathered about 3,400 votes in the county. Are you following that? 337. So this is contrary to the spin that they're trying, because what they're doing is taking all the independent votes, all the non-Democratic Republicans, which includes the Native votes and Harry Brown, a whole bunch of other crap. 337 voters registered as members of the Reform Party in Palm Beach. And we're supposed to believe he got 3,400 votes. Karl Rove, chief strategist for Texas Governor Bush, said Thursday that there were nearly 17,000 voters in Palm Beach County who registered as a member of the Independent Party, the Reform Party, the American Reform Party, which were the labels born this year by the reform effort in Florida. He credited Buchanan showing on the Reform Party nominees' extraordinary effort to register supporters. However, Florida Reform Party officials immediately disputed Rove's assessment of their party strength, saying that Florida combines all minor parties, including those who say they're independent, as being part of the dormant Independent Party. All the little parties, like I said. If Palm Beach County is a Buchanan stronghold, then so is my synagogue, said David Goldman, former chairman of the State Reform Party. Rove's numbers are totally bogus. So you see, even Buchanan himself, before they finally got, and even when they did get to him, he admits that a lot of those votes were for Gore, although he didn't want to give them back. And the people from the Reform Party itself are saying, we didn't get those votes. You got to be crazy. You got to be out of your mind to believe that. It's totally inconceivable that populations with high Jewish and black constituents voted for Buchanan, added Dr. Josh Smith, 59, a political activist and retired senior high school principal from Delray Beach. Portions of Delray, heavily populated by African Americans and Jews, were Buchanan's strongholds in Tuesday's election. In Riviera Beach, a working-class, predominantly black community north of West Palm Beach, Buchanan gained 38 votes in 3 precincts. At one of the 3 precincts, Buchanan drew 1 vote for every 50 cast for Gore. At the Greater Primitive Baptist Church. What kind of a name is that? Polling place in Riviera Beach, Buchanan received 17 out of 1,262 votes, 1 vote for every 71 cast for Gore. Margaret Doss, the secretary at the church who votes in the primarily African-American precinct, is still scratching her forehead over the results. I'm very surprised, she said yesterday. I don't know what could have happened. And now comes the capper. Here comes the really good stuff, boys and girls. Strap yourselves in real tight. Let's get those boots going. In 3 precincts that comprise Century Village in Boca, a condo community heavily populated by the elderly, especially Jews, Buchanan drew 58 votes.
Oi!
That means that for all 3 precincts, the Reform Party candidate gained over 1 vote for every 50 or 60 cast for Gore in Century Village.
Oi!
Kurt Weiss votes in Precinct 60 at Century Village in West Palm Beach and serves as president of the United Civic Organization, a community group in the complex. Weiss says his community is between 65 and 70% Jewish, with a population entirely over the age of 55. My parents were killed by the Nazis and almost every other member of my family, said Weiss, 77, who fled from Vienna in 1939. They all perished. Yet Weiss says he fears he voted for Buchanan by mistake, along with perhaps scores of his neighbors. I hope I didn't. I pray I didn't, but I'm not sure, he said. We wouldn't vote for that man for anything. Even Alzheimer's victims wouldn't vote for Pat Buchanan. Jeanette J. Slavin, a community activist from Precinct 171A in Delray Beach, has spent the past few days fielding phone calls from distressed neighbors who feared they accidentally voted for Buchanan. The composition of 171A is senior, mostly Jewish people who are pretty well off, she said. They're Democrats from ages ago, from up north, and they never would have voted for Buchanan. According to returns from Palm Beach County, 28 people from Precinct 171A voted for Buchanan. Those Buchanan votes represented 1.4% of 171A's votes. Countywide, Buchanan got 0.79% of the vote. I've had so many phone calls, I had to leave the house, Slavin said. People were crying and asking me, what are you going to do? We have to do something. It's not right that all those people went to the polls, some with canes, some with walkers, and couldn't vote for the person they wanted to be president. And this isn't a case of, well, they're so old, they're stupid, they're this, they're... It's a case of the ballot was illegal, confusing, and more important from a legal standpoint, freaking legal. Get with it. Understand it. Because nobody in this country is going to hand over the keys to the kingdom to a bunch of people who want to steal the election based on a bogus election in the state of Florida. Based on the skullduggery in a state where the governor just happens by coincidence to be the younger brother of the very confident candidate who was sitting there trailing or supposedly losing the state, but we have no fear because we got all the aces in the hole. In the hole. Like I said, there was the Bush hole, the Gore hole, and then there was Buchanan.
He's an asshole.
The asshole. 26 after 10 at 560 WQAM.
Florida Panther hockey star Pavel Gurry talks about the old country. I was 5 years old when playing for Red Army team. First time I missed goal against Stalingrad Sputniks. Coach Badenoff put me in small pots with water dripping on my head for 12 hours. Next time I miss goal, KGB raped my mother. First time I scored goal was against Siberian sadmen. And fearless leader gave my family peace of meat.
Watch the Panthers lose again this Friday night against Miss Cassie's Montessori class. Tickets available at all Ticket Bastard outlets.
Okay, 10:31 at 560 WQAM. The New York Times announces that if Florida elections are invalidated, Gore will win the presidency because only a majority of the 535 certified electors, 257 electoral votes, will be required. And he's already got 260. Now, Iowa, again, they're saying it's too close to call, but guess what? So is New Hampshire. And you know something? I'm all for it. If they want to have recounts in all the close states, they should. Nobody should win the election based on phony results. And I'm going to say it again. In the age of computers, how embarrassing it is that we live in a country where we're still doing things like in the Stone Age. Paper ballots in bags, boxes, cartons, people running around forgetting to deliver them, driving around in the wilderness trying to find out where they're supposed to take them. Absentee paper ballots, God only knows how many of them. Nobody seems to have the answer to that. Unbelievable. Got to get over this. We have to get into the computer age. Not the internet. I'm not ready for that. They talked about that the other day. We got too many hackers out there. There's too much, it's like an invitation to fix the goddamn election, just like the paper ballots are. That's what they really ought to do right before the election, is put on the front page of every newspaper in America, here's an engraved invitation for you to help us fix the election. With hanky-panky with these paper ballots. And the thing with the chads on the back of the goddamn card, what are we talking about? This is like something out of the Dark Ages. That they have to keep running these things through and running them through and take all these hours and days. I think back in the founding fathers, they could have probably done it faster than this. With a goddamn Pony Express. Now, if people from Palm Beach County want to, there's a form on Democrats.com on the internet. Speaking of that, www.internet. What am I saying? .democrats.com. www.democrats.com. And there's a form. A protest form. Protest of election returns to the canvassing board. And you have to fill in your name and precinct. If you don't know your precinct number, that says it'll determine it from your street address. It says, under penalties of perjury, I swear or affirm I've read the foregoing and believe the facts to be true, yada, 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 and that I believe I mistakenly cast my vote for Pat Buchanan instead of Al Gore. So you can find this form right there on the internet, www.democrats.com. You can print the page, fill in the blanks, and fax it to 413-460-3396. Also, if you live in Palm Beach and have any questions about this, you can call 561-803-3530. We should put this on our website. Should put it on neilrogers.com. Speaking of that, our poll yesterday, should Palm Beach County be given another election? We had 1,484 votes. 1,128 said, yeah. That's 76%. 356 said, no. 24%. So over three-quarters of the people in this audience, anyway, said that Palm Beach ought to be given a chance to revote. Absolutely. I mean, of course, the big thing going around, and thanks for sending these, but we got about 500 of them, the official Florida presidential ballot, the new cartoon that's coming out. Follow the arrow and punch the appropriate dot. On the top line, it's got Bush with a straight arrow to a big dot. And then it's got Buchanan, Gore, and Nader, and a whole bunch of squiggly lines, and then they finally come out like a goddamn crossword puzzle next to a dot. As in, what's dot? This is a way to run a goddamn election? No. Like I said, if Iowa, if they're recounting there, great. Let's find out who really won. Wisconsin, let's see who really won. New Hampshire, New Mexico, whatever the hell it is. I don't know why the Bush people just don't admit, well, we know that we really lost Florida. We just don't want that to happen, but we know that we really lost it. Here's Coral Gables. Hello.
Hey, Neil.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you and the Goldtooth community were complaining when Kennedy stole the election.
Yeah. And I hate to break the news to you, asshole, the Goldtooth community. Hate to break the news to you, my anti-Semitic friend, but they were talking about that last night. The reason that Nixon didn't protest the vote with all the fixed votes in Chicago was because they had already fixed the votes downstate in Springfield and downstate Illinois. They had already sent in there. But Mayor Daley in those days was smarter than the Republicans because they made them turn in their vote totals first. And then they said, okay, this is how many we need in Chicago. This is how many dead people we need to vote. And guess what? They got it. That has a lot to do with what's happening right now, sir. But don't confuse these people with the facts, these anti-Semites, the Goldtooth crowd. Here's Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Neil, how are you?
Okay.
You know, through this whole, through their campaigning, you know, Bush was for the people, whatever the people's will is. Well, guess what, George?
I trust the people.
You lost the popular vote, and you're going to lose the Florida vote, so why don't you step down? And as far as taking this thing, as far as it can go, I'm with you 100%. Because why should they be able to steal the election?
Exactly. I mean, you know, again, it's this entitlement thing, like, oh, well, you know, we're entitled to it, and Papa Bush and Cheney and all this crowd, the CIA crowd and the Blue Noses, they want him in there, and the big business people, they want him in there. Why don't you just give up already? Nice try, but we got it.
Lee Ollie North, was on last night. He's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw him on there, but he was threatening. He was, like, intimidating the guy from the Gore camp, like intimidating, like, who do you think you are? Mr. Ollie North. And he was like, God.
Yeah, we know who he is, a convicted felon.
Yeah, a convicted felon. And like I said, the guy was like getting scared, like moving over like he was going to hit him because he's kind of an imposing figure. It was just embarrassing. This whole thing is a travesty of justice.
Okay, hang in there, pal.
Thanks.
Here's our poll question for today and through the weekend. Now that the Florida recount is finished, should Al Gore concede defeat? Yes or no? Now that the vote recount is finished, should Al Gore concede defeat? Yes or no? 22 before 11 at 560 WQM. Yeah, all you Goldtooth crowd, I wonder if he was upset in 1960. That's a brilliant observation, and it goes to show once again the kind of morons that we're dealing with out there. I mean, idiots. And I will say this in all fairness, what the hell do they call it? They have another one tonight on CNN. Those
the town meetings?
Oh, town meetings, yeah. See, I get them confused with the potluck suppers. one of those town hall meetings they had yesterday, and it was in Palm Beach. And there were a couple of people who said they were Bush people. They voted for Bush, but they admitted that the ballot was deceptive. And another thing I started to mention before, not only were the holes not in the proper place, but when you put the ballot into that machine, when you slide it down in there, you're not looking straight at it, you're looking at it on an angle. And one of the protesters up there in Palm Beach pointed that out very well last night. You're looking at an angle, and so the alignment isn't exact. Not to mention, I'll say it again, the ballot was illegal. 21 till 11 at QAM.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560. QAM.
Decriminalized pot in Florida.
This is the story of a girl who dropped her pants and ruined the whole world. And while her butt was fine, it looked like mine, 'cause it was kind of hairy, and that's gross. How many hairs on her rear? Certainly more than on mine, it appears, and I'm gonna be so sincere. It looked like a sheep that hadn't been sheared. She had an ass like Chewbacca, furry and brown on the rounds of her cheeks. Needed a razor, it's clear, or at least shampoo so the hair didn't reek. But why did I have to see it that day when the hair on her ass was ruining my way? The hair on the butt of a girl, well, it ain't okay. This is the story of a girl who dropped her pants and ruined the whole world. And while her butt was fine, it looked like mine, 'cause it was kind of hairy, and that's gross. And that's gross.
Yeah. 10:44, 560 WQM. I see during the break, I'm watching the tape. They're showing the rerun of Karen Hughes this morning, the Bush campaign spokesman. And and they're doing the same thing they've been doing all along. They're trying to talk themselves into it. And after the recount is totally done, the Gore people have got to accept that this is the will of the public and the election is over, and yada, yada. And William Daley just issued a message saying, no, the election is not over. And it's not. It's not over till A, all the votes have been counted, B, recounted, and not just here, but if there's a problem in Iowa, let's recount those. If there's a problem in Wisconsin, New Mexico, Arizona, New Hampshire, get it right. We're not talking about a goddamn game of cards here. We're talking about a presidential election. Let's get it right before somebody grabs the keys to the kingdom, which is exactly what they're trying to do. And you can see by their enormous haste in getting it over that they know that they lost. They lost the popular vote, and they lost the electoral vote. Well, let's get it over now, okay? How many more recounts do you want? As many as it takes to get it right. Not to get the desired result, but to get it right. To find out whose vote was for whom and make sure it counts. That's all. A reasonable request. Here's a lady in Plantation. Hello.
Good morning, Neil.
Yes, ma'am.
I, too, voted for Al Gore for President of the United States, and what you've been reading since 10 o'clock makes it really hits the nail on the head. Because if the right people went to Palm Beach, especially to Century Village, and asked these people door to door, they didn't vote for Buchanan by mistake instead of Gore. They voted for Buchanan by mistake instead of Lieberman.
Yeah.
And this is what they have to realize. These people wanted Lieberman in there. And I think everybody should want, but it's time we had a minority vice president in there anyway. So,
well, does Gore get the advantage of those votes, or only Lieberman? Do you have to separate them now?
Well, I'm saying that they didn't. They wanted Lieberman as much as Gore, or Gore as much as Lieberman. And I just think it's a shame that Bush might go to the White House because of this mistake. I really do. I just think it's a shame.
Well, we got a long way to go. The game ain't over.
This is true.
Okay, hang on, sweetie. The Boca Raton law firm of Horowitz, Sismaniak, and Bowser filed a class action complaint in Palm Beach Circuit Court, case number so on, against Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections. Plaintiffs contend they lost the right to vote due to improper ballots and seek to represent registered voters in the Palm Beach County election. The complaint includes an order allowing a revote for Palm Beach County with respect to the presidential revote only. Anyone who thinks that your vote may have been invalidated, call attorney Mark Cohen, and here's the number, 561-989-9669. in conjunction with this class action suit in Palm Beach County. Anybody in Palm Beach who thinks that your vote may have been invalidated, call attorney Mark Cohen at 561-989-9669. I'm voting, by the way, over here on our poll. I just voted on our poll, NeilRogers.com. And our poll question today and through the weekend. Now that the Florida recount is finished, should Al Gore concede defeat? Yes or no? Here's a call in Delray Beach. Hello.
Hello, Dale.
Yes, sir.
Last night's meeting at the Monaco in Kings Point, Mary Lou Becker, Secretary of Mr. Aronson, the Commissioner of Elections, told the people that Judge Lucy Brown has put a stop to all counting until 1 p.m. on Monday, and she will decide at that time whether the ballots will be certified or not.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yes.
You understand me?
Yes.
Righto.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, Zagazun. Get a hearing aid. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Didn't we already have that on? Okay, but he's very worked up about it. And for obvious reasons, let me say it again. The Palm Beach County as a whole has got only 337 voters registered as members of the Reform Party, and we're supposed to believe that Pat Buchanan got 3,400 votes. Is there anybody who believes that?
No.
Does Pat Buchanan believe it?
No.
Do the Reform Party members believe it?
No.
No. And we're supposed to believe that we're going to coronate the next president based on a bogus victory by 327 votes out of 6 million cast in this state. With all of these irregularities. And you know something? Here's the tip-off. Here's what I ought to tell you. They started out with 1,784 vote difference. And if you want to know why the supervisor of elections in Tallahassee, whatever her name is, that bitch. One moment, please. Now, what the hell is her name? You saw her yesterday, the one they had on TV. Harris. What the hell is her name? One moment, please. Okay, Catherine Harris. And she insisted on keeping up that 1,784 vote total during the course of her. And you want to know why? Because she's a partisan. She's a rabid Bush Republican. Yeah. So they kept that number up there, even though all the networks at that time, thanks to the Associated Press, they were showing 215, 229 as it was changing county by county as the recount was going on. 1,784 she kept having up on there. Oh, well, we've only got 53. Guess what, sweetheart? You're full of crap. Not that there's any partisanship involved here. Not that the fact that the governor of the state is the brother of the candidate who allegedly won, who allegedly stole the election. 58 votes for Pat Buchanan in Century Village.
Oi!
Yeah. Blacks, old Jews, and other minorities voting for Buchanan. Does anybody in the world believe that?
No.
Does Joseph Goebbels believe that?
No.
Heinrich Himmler?
No.
Hermann Goering?
No.
Rudolf Hess?
No.
Over at the Hess station?
No.
They don't believe it. An illegal ballot that disenfranchises at least 3,000, I would say, and maybe more of those 3,400 people. Unacceptable. Here's a mobile in Miami. Hello.
Hey, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy, did you watch Larry King live last night?
Yeah, I'm still showing up from it, yeah.
did you see Lincoln Diaz Ballard?
Yeah, no, as soon as he came on, I turned to another channel. I will not watch him. He's a certifiable lunatic. He belongs in a rubber room.
He is. He was on there trying to put his spin on the whole thing about that he should not, the revote should be a non-issue and blah, 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 this and that. And I think it was Sander Van Oker or one of the other guys that were on there, had a comment that that the election was not taking place in Cuba. It was taking place in the United States. And as soon as he said that, he got this sour look on his face.
Yeah.
Like somebody was shoving a corn cob up his ass.
Liberty,
yeah.
He didn't know what to say. He was like, that, and then he came back on at the end. He was like, well, in the United States of America, and then Larry King just cut him off right
Good. Nice going, Larry. It's about time.
Hey, in closing, Neil? In closing?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a ball spot. Can you play that?
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Now, what was Jesse saying?
Liberty, Paris, Cuba.
Yeah. Lincoln Diaz Ballard. Don't confuse them with the facts. Him and Ileana Gross-Leighton. Oh, and speaking of that, you notice who one of the attorneys is in Palm Beach for the Democrats? Kendall Coffey.
Right. Who was when he's on our side?
He was one of the 865 Alien attorneys, but now all of a sudden he's seen the light. And as a good practicing attorney, you know, he's there. One thing about you lawyers out there, man, you don't care which side the money's coming in from. Just grab it. Just grab it. And they say that prostitution is illegal in this country? Yeah, right. Sure. Here's Boca. Hello.
Hey, Neil, how's it going?
Okay.
Hey, I got a couple things for you. First of all, let me just say I'm an independent, I have no party affiliation, so everything that's being said or coming out of both campaigns, I'm taking with a grain of salt.
Right.
And it seems that the two biggest issues that have come out of the Palm Beach situation were the setup of the ballot, if it was legal, and I guess how many votes were invalidated. So I just did a little independent, you know, searching on my own and looking at the statutes and whatnot. I don't know what you're referring to as far as the ballot being illegal. Is that based on the way the candidates were listed, or?
Yes, it's based on the way that they were listed. It's based on the way that the order of the holes, and it's also based on the invalid instructions.
Okay. Okay, I mean, as far as I could see, I guess the instructions that have to do with paper ballots versus machine ballots, and that's where I thought maybe some of the confusion was.
No, I'm talking about the instructions that were given to each and every voter in Palm Beach County, which I have here in front of me in the middle of these 8,000 faxes somewhere here.
I see that, where it says mark to the right, I guess.
Push straight down through the hole to the right of the arrow by the candidate or issue of your choice. It says absolutely nothing at all about punching to the left or candidates being listed to the right of the, and I'll say it again, the butterfly ballots that are used in Chicago and anywhere else don't have candidates from the same race on different pages.
But they are punched to the left. They're just not from the same race.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
And I'm sure the instructions probably say punch the hole to next to the right.
Right. Okay, I guess the second thing was the number of invalid ballots. And the one thing that I didn't hear reported too much, I saw in a couple places, was the fact that in '96 there were something like 15,000 ballots in Palm Beach that had to be thrown out because they were double punched, and you know there's 19,000 this time around with a higher turnout. So how much, you know, is that really an anomaly because of the ballot, or is it just the voting pattern?
I don't know, but it's sure worth looking at, isn't it, when you're talking about an election decided by 300 votes?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I have absolutely no problem with, you know, people calling for recounts. We have to wait till next week for the absentees to come in.
I mean, what's the hurry? The electors don't meet till December 18th. I don't understand what the hurry is. Yeah, people do like to know, and of course all those grave robbers on Wall Street, they're just dying for the results that they want. But in the meantime, it would seem to me this is important enough that we ought to get it right.
I agree. Let's get it right.
Whichever way it comes out, let's get it right.
I think the folks who are clamoring for a revote, though, probably are not going to get it if they punched it twice, and, you know, I guess they have to, you know,
but however, the thing forget about the 19,000, but the 3,400 Buchanan votes, it seems to me very clearly that you can see by the precincts that, there is plenty of precedent for this too, that a judge has plenty of evidence here showing that there's no way that these votes were valid. They were intended for that Buchanan.
How much responsibility do you think should be heaped on the voter themselves versus some other force?
I don't think that you have to be clever. I think that if you're a citizen and you're entitled to vote, I think that you don't have to be clever. You don't have to be have great reflexes. You're supposed to be able to vote, and it should be very simple and very clear, which it was not.
Well,
the idea that we're going to have elections, especially important ones like for the president, based on confusing the voters and how many people are bright enough to see through all the bullcrap and get it right, that's not the way the system's supposed to work.
I hear you. So but I just think those folks who punched it twice, I don't know what really...
I'm not talking about the twice, but again, you got to understand that when you look at it through an angle, and again, keeping in mind what I just read to you about punching the hole to the right of the candidate...
I voted in Palm Beach, so I saw that.
Those people thought they were voting for Gore and Lieberman because it looks...
So they punched it twice? Is that what they're saying? They punched one for Lieberman and
because both spaces, both circles, both holes show up within the space that it says Al Gore and Joe Lieberman. That's right. And so a lot of people assumed that, well, the vote you punched to the right, they had to punch them both.
Oh, well.
Which I know it sounds pretty stupid, but guess what? People aren't that bright.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you don't have to be bright to vote. That is
exactly.
True.
Well, take a look at all the people who voted for Bush.
All right.
Have a great day, pal.
See you.
10:56 at 560 QAM.
Sports Radio 560 WQAM Miami, Fort Lauderdale, a Beasley Broadcast Group station, and WQAM.com for the world.
I don't have a bone spot.
When the sun beats down and burns the top of my head, and when my employees laugh at me, I wish I were dead. I got a bald spot on top of me, yeah. Should I paint it, plant it, or cover it? It's all up to me. Up to you. He's got a bald spot, just like a billiard ball. He's got a bald spot. I feel 3 inches tall. He's got a bald spot. Please help me, Ron Pope. He's got a bald spot. I know how Larry King feels. He got a bald spot. Bald spot. Oh, when I painted my head, my wife, she said, she's out of here. And when I go to the John, the guys are using my head for a mirror. I've got a bald spot on top of me, yeah. Should I paint it, plant it, or cover it? It's all up to me. All up to you. He's got a bald spot, just like a billiard ball. He's got a bald spot. I feel 3 inches tall. He's got a bald spot. Please help me, Ron Pope. He's got a bald spot. I know how Larry King feels. He's got a bald spot. Bald spot.
And nothing to do with that. Okay, I'm sure he wanted to hear the call, but I can't find it. And you know something, that's as good as I can do. Hope that'll suffice for now. Look for Joe Costello on the QM van from noon to 2 with the Best of Neil stuff at the Pompano Beach Service Center on the Turnpike at Atlantic Boulevard with all the CDs, cassettes, keychains, and T-shirts. Our grand total so far is pretty weak, to be honest with you, for Planned Parenthood. $46,430. Pretty weak. Nephew says we're doing okay. Do I believe it?
No.
Well, he don't care. He's leaving anyway. But anyway, so we got $46,430. You can buy your stuff from our website, neilrogers.com, or also WQAM.com. You can get at all your spec stores all over town, and specs in Naples and Fort Myers, the Best Neil CDs and cassettes. All shipping and handling this year is being donated by Pack Mail Centers of America, 965 North Nob Hill Road in Plantation, and we thank them profusely. But in the meantime, with the holidays coming up, great gift idea, Best of Neil CD and cassette every year. That's when we usually do big, and we got a long way to go. Long way to go. We're not going to accept mediocrity just because somebody may be leaving. You know what I'm talking about? And I would like to make a suggestion as to how very easily we could eliminate the paper ballots, all the confusion, and you know how you do it. You know when you go to the bank with your ATM card? Instead of going in, there's all these machines, these voting machines, these archaic dinosaurs. You go in and there are machines that look like ATMs. And everybody has a card, just like a credit card.
That's your voter card.
And that is your voter card. You have your voter registration card. Well, this would be all your registration card and your voter card. And you swipe it through there, and then all of a sudden on the screen comes up your choices. On a screen. And you punch Al Gore or George Bush or Pat or whatever. And then when you're done with that one, you press the button, it goes to the next screen. And then when you get all done, it says if you'd like to validate, if you'd like to, if this is your accurate vote,
give you a little readout.
Right, that's right. Is this what you want?
Yes,
press
no.
yes, and that's it. And then it clears the thing. Or if you want to make a change, press the screen you want to go back to, screen number 2. I want to change this. And then finally, when you get to the end of it, that's it. And your vote automatically registers, and it's locked in there, and nobody can F with it. Nobody can drive it around in a box, in a bag. This is not the way, ladies and gentlemen, to conduct an election. Not just for goddamn president, but for governor, for dog catcher. This is an invitation for fraud. I don't want to hear from any officials who are bemoaning the fact that, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's terrible because you people, the people in charge, are too goddamn stupid and you're not innovative enough to come up with a system that makes sure we get a real winner. You invite people to screw it up. Now, somebody here, Michael, wants to know, and I don't know the answer. Maybe somebody out there does. If there's a double punch in one race on a ballot, does the counting machine cancel the one race or the entire ballot? I think that's the entire ballot. Yeah. So we have all these thousands of ballots that were tossed out, 19,000, and we're assuming the double punch is on the Gore-Lieberman line, and you have to also assume that the majority of those people would have voted for Bill Nelson. So even though he won, his margin of victory was probably much, much higher than it would appear. Again, that's only assumption, but it's assumption based on pretty good evidence. Here's a lady in Pembroke Pines. Hello.
Hello.
Yes,
Neil?
ma'am. Yes.
Yes. I have some questions. I called the supervisor of elections in Broward County and asked how they actually did the recount.
Mm-hmm.
And I also watched MSNBC yesterday, and they spoke to a lady in Tampa that was in charge of that. They only recount the ballots. They don't compare the signatures in each precinct to the number of ballots.
Mm-hmm.
To me, to be a valid recount, they should be counting the signatures. So if I have 5,000 signatures in my precinct, I should have 5,000 ballots. I shouldn't have 4,000 ballots because something's wrong, or I shouldn't have 6,000 ballots.
So they don't check that?
They do not check that, and that is what I think these recounts, that should be mandatory. Every count.
Uh-huh.
So that was one point. And to me, on Election Day, all the channels were saying that it's 80% turnout, 80% turnout,
Right.
80% turnout.
88 indeed.
However, if you look at the results, it ended up being 70, 67, and 72, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, to validate an election, people are always wondering what's happening with ballots if some are missing. The only way to do it is to compare the signatures. My second point on the 19,000 double punches.
Right.
When they said that this happened in 1996, was that just in the same county, or was that all over Florida?
On Palm Beach, they said there were 15,000 in Palm Beach.
Okay. So
Maybe we have a lot of stupid people in Palm Beach. It wouldn't surprise me.
Or has anybody thought that maybe they had faulty ballots? Maybe there was already one.
That's a good point.
One hole punch.
Well, no, it's not that. But I mean, maybe there was the same problem. I don't know if they used the same stupid butterfly ballot in '96 in Palm Beach, but I'm sure somebody can tell us. And maybe people did it for the same reason. I don't know.
Because my suggestion is they have leftover ballots that were never used.
Right.
Why don't they look at those ballots and see if there's something faulty with them?
Mm-hmm.
Just running them through a machine to see if it comes up with a vote.
Yeah. Well, when they're going to be doing these hand by hand, they're recounting in Palm Beach. They're doing 4,000 to start by hand. They're recounting of all the machine in Palm Beach because both parties demanded that, and they're doing it by hand. First, they start with 4,000, 1%, and then they'll see how far off that is and whether it matches up with the computerized or not. And then, depending if it doesn't, then they're going to they'll have to do the whole county by hand.
But wouldn't that invalidate all these 19,000 if there was already something the matter with the ballot itself? In other words, if you put those ballots through and it already came up with one vote and nobody's voted on them, wouldn't there be something the matter with the ballot? And wouldn't it be worthwhile to...
They're going to have to look at that, but I have doubts about that. Okay, good luck to us. Thanks. 5670560, pound 560. It's just enough to make you very, 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 very angry. Not that I don't think most people are all that crazy about either one of these candidates, because I know I sure as hell wasn't. But the fact is, if we're going to spend all of the time and all the billions of dollars that they spend on advertising and campaigning, all this bullcrap, then at least get it right. I know I'm asking for a lot because you know me, I'm always a malcontent, but how about getting it right? Duh. Yeah. How about getting it right? Oh, I'm complaining too much? I'm sorry. 10 past 11 at 560 WQN.
I want to bang you in the butt, honey.
So this is Andrew and I was calling today to tell you about AT&T's newest calling plans that can simplify your calling and reduce your phone bill.
Wait, who are you again?
AT&T.
AT&T, and you're calling for what?
So I'll tell you about our newest calling plan.
Your newest calling plan?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Well, here at AT&T, like I said, we do have new calling plans that can simplify your calling and reduce your phone bill. If you don't mind me asking, what... Hello?
You don't mind me, I'm on the toilet while I'm talking to you.
Oh, okay. What kind of long distance carrier do you...
What's your question again?
What kind of long distance carrier...
Hello?
Do you have?
We must use AT&T, I don't know.
Okay, so would there be a better time for me to call her back?
What?
Would there be a better time for me to call her back?
No, you got to talk to me because I have the phone here in the bathroom, and I don't want to get up and hang it up. So keep talking to me, all right? Tell me more about your deals.
Okay, so you say you think you're with the shared agency or the MCI or Sprint?
What? What?
So you think you're with MCI or Sprint or AT&T?
Something like that.
Something like that? Okay, do you know what kind of rate you're currently getting? Hello?
Do you prefer to roll it up or do you wad it?
Here, you start. Can you say that one more time?
I'm making a poopy. You make a poopy? Hello?
Bye-bye. Okay, 11:16 at 560 WQAM. Here's an article from the Wall Street Journal that appeared. Oh, by the way, Joe Costello is going to be in the QM van at the Citgo gas station in the Palm Beach Service Center on the Turnpike at Atlantic Boulevard. And then you can stop in there and get some Nathan's hot dogs and some Mother Hummer pies or whatever. What do they have? Mrs. Fields cookies? Whatever they got up there. Did you ever stop in the Turnpike thing?
Yeah, I travel a lot. Up the road. Up the state.
Anyway, here's a whole article about I Vote for High-Tech Balloting by John Steele Gordon. It says, when Americans went to the polls yesterday, we chose or thought we were choosing the leader of the most technologically advanced country on earth. We have more automobiles, computers, telephones, televisions, VCRs, Cuisinarts, and heaven knows what else per capita than any other country. Yet when we voted, the central act, the communion of democracy itself, if you will, we Americans mostly use technology so primitive it was available 100 years ago, in some cases 200 years ago. The paper ballot, still in use in a few places, dates back centuries and was the method used to elect George Washington. Not much changed for another 100 years except the scale and scope of voter fraud. Inventors began to look for ways to counter fraud and, as important, make it easier and to cast and count votes. The very first patent award to Thomas Edison in 1868, when he was 29, was for a device that would allow congressmen and senators to vote on motions by simply pushing the appropriate button. Voice votes that often took 45 minutes could be replaced with a nearly instant tally. But Congress wanted no part of Edison's bright idea, much to the young inventor's chagrin. Its members preferred the old method, which allowed pressure to be put on late voting legislators. And then it goes on about the public voting booth and about this and that and yada, yada, yada. It says the technology of modern, and at least for the moment, fraud-proof voting system is already well developed and ready to go. It's not the Internet. The problem of how to prevent fraud on such a wide-open communications platform has not been solved by any means. Instead, it's a technology that's familiar to anyone and everyone, sufficiently secure that banks are willing to dispense millions by means of it every day, the ATM, like I just said. There is not a single technological reason why a voter on election day should not be able to walk in any convenient polling place, insert his credit-like registration card and his PIN number, allowing a series of questions on a screen. Please vote for one of the following candidates for president, for example. Review his choices and press a button to register his votes. The votes will be transmitted instantly to the central computer, and at the close of polling, results will be instantly known. Oh! If a nationwide 24-hour election period were adopted, people in the eastern U.S. would still get a good night's sleep on election night. But while there are no technological reasons such a system could not be well on its way to being implemented by the next presidential election, the vast inertia inherent in government, not to mention the self-interest of politicians comfortable with the status quo for reasons honorable and less so, makes that extremely unlikely. So while I can dictate this article to a voice-recognizing software program instead of typing out on a manual typewriter, I will still have to vote as my great-grandparents did. One could hardly ask for a better example of the superiority of private enterprise over government when it comes to producing goods and services. Marion Plantation says they have ATM-type machines in California, and they're virtually error-free compared to the ancient technology that we use. Amen, Mary. There you go. Should never, ever have to go through this again. And you know something? Then this way we wouldn't have mistakes like the networks revealing the results too early because it would all be foolproof. There it is. Instead of having to do exit polling, which I'm sure would be much to their chagrin and dismay, and having this pissing contest to see which news outlet can be first and fast and more full of crap, they press a button, it's all there. When the poll closes at 7 o'clock, for example, in Florida, they punch it, or 8 o'clock in the Panhandle. They punch the button, there's the number. Gore's got this, Bush has got that, Buchanan's got a piece of crap, and that's it. Makes too much sense. And, of course, the politicians wouldn't like it, especially here in the state of Florida, because it eliminates almost entirely the possibility of fraud. Here's a lady in Miami. Hello.
Yeah, Neil?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Did any other ballot in the United States except Florida had candidate 1, hole 1, and candidate 2, hole 3?
No.
We were the only ones?
Yes, and I'll say it again. The Republicans are trying to spin this thing about that butterfly-style ballot being used in Chicago and elsewhere, and it is, but I'll say it again, that each individual race is on a separate page. So like the presidential candidates would all be on the left page, follow what I'm saying? And the holes would be right directly opposite the name, and the race that's on the other page facing would be like for dog catcher or county commissioner or whatever, and that would have its own holes.
My goodness, so we were the only ones candidate 1, and candidate 2, 3.
Right.
Yeah, unbelievable. And I have another comment to the gentleman about the previous vote in Palm Beach that they punched double holes. I mean, the 2 holes for different candidates.
Yeah.
The previous election. What I heard, the number that I heard was 5,000, not 15,000. So apparently out there are all these numbers floating around, and nobody knows exactly what it is. So I think somebody should really investigate that and find out how many people did previously do that in the previous election, because it's a big difference from 15,000 to 5,000.
Amen. Okay.
Okay.
Hope for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a fax from Jason, the young voter and loyal listener who talks about how disturbed he is. He says, all the possible outcomes in the election are frightening me, but the pivotal question for you is, if this were reverse the scenario and put the Republicans in the Democrats' position, would your position be the same? Will your stance be so vehement? The answer is yes. And just like I said a couple minutes ago, if there's reason for a recount in Iowa, let's recount them. Gore won Iowa, but let's get it right. That's what I'm saying. Sure, I want Gore to win, but let's get it right. If he lost, he lost. I can handle it. I went to bed thinking he lost. I can live with it. We'll survive it. But get it right. Don't disenfranchise thousands and thousands and thousands of voters so that they can get a certain desired result. Unacceptable. Okay, the information you have regarding the double punch ballots in Palm Beach is incorrect. According to the Palm Beach County Commissioner, who was on the Today Show this morning, the number that was being used by the Republican campaign manager is misleading. According to the Commissioner, they measure over and under. Oh, overs and unders, let's hear it. Oh! Get Eddie K in on this. Which means the total votes where a ballot has more than 1 holes punched for president, over, and the total votes where a ballot has 0 holes punched for president, under. The total combined over-under for the last election was around 14,000. I can't remember the exact number. The over-under for this election was over 30,000. The Republican Party is comparing the total over-under from the last election to just the over for this election. You see that? It says, and it is important. Thank you very much. So they got the overs and the unders, and there you go. Anybody understand that?
No.
Well, I do. Just like they're trying to give this song to dance about the Buchanan votes. It's totally meaningless. And you know something? Talk about fuzzy math. Isn't that amazing what a bunch of hypocrites we're dealing with here? They're the ones who are supposed to be interested in bringing back civility and morality to Washington, D.C., and to the government, and yada, 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 and they're for the people, power to the people. And yet they keep lying. They just keep blatantly lying, flat out lying, and trying to spin the numbers. God. That thing about Buchanan and all the votes he got the last time, yeah, as a Republican in the Republican primary. Not as an independent. But don't confuse them with the facts. Because technically they're right, but don't see the rest of it. Here's a little tiny bit of the truth, a kernel of truth shrouded in the middle of all kinds of lies. Which I think should tell you where they're coming from in the first place. They are trying to steal the election. That's what I'm pissed off about, Jason and everybody else. We have people now who are trying to steal the election. They lost the popular vote, they lost the electoral vote, and now they're trying to steal it. And hurry up and get it over with and let us steal it. And the rest of us are saying, no, we don't think so. There's no big hurry. Let's get it right. West Palm Beach, hello.
Neil.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
Okay.
What did you mention earlier about how some votes that might have been undercounted wouldn't have been counted? So if you didn't press, like for instance, I voted in Davie and Peter Deutsch was on the ballot,
right?
And I left it blank because he was unopposed, so I didn't vote for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Were you saying there was a possibility?
No. See, the thing is that sometimes when they go through with those ballots, if the Chad is stuck back, it goes back into place. If it didn't go punch all the way through,
right?
And it won't show up in the final count.
Just the final count for that particular race or for the whole ballot?
for that race. In other words, it all depends on where the Chad is that's loose, that's hanging there.
Okay, so if I just left the Peter Deutsch one untouched, but I voted Bush, then
Right.
it probably would calculate it.
Well, I mean, it will calculate the rest of your ballot, but I mean, as far as that individual race, when they go back and do them by hand, it will pick up any votes that were left off because the Chad was stuck back in place.
Okay, gotcha. And also,
Okay.
I have a lawyer friend of mine who sent me something from the Florida Supreme Court. They've already ruled on both these issues previously with invalid ballots and candidates appearing in different places than where they should have been. And in both times they ruled that it's, too bad. We should have brought it up before the election. And they
No. See, I keep hearing people say, this is the popular party line now. They're complaining after the election is over. Let me say it again. The sample ballot, first of all, doesn't show the holes. And secondly, the misalignment problem only happens when you place the ballot in the machine, which no voter could have seen until they actually went to vote.
I can sympathize with that, but like I said, the Supreme Court already ruled that.
In addition to which, the ballots are illegal. They're in violation of Florida law.
Like I said, if you don't do it beforehand...
Sir, let me say it again. Let me say it again. You're wrong. You lose. That's the popular party line. That's what they're trying to make their whole case on. Oh yeah, well if you don't check it out before the game starts, you lose. Wrong. They're in violation of the law. Period. Well, we're not interested in. I mean, if you think we're going to hand you the election based on a technicality, you're wrong, sir. You're absolutely wrong. They're illegal, period. Hole number 2 is for Buchanan. Hole number 2 must be, by law, for the Democratic candidate, Al Gore. But don't confuse this guy with the fact he just keeps repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again. He's still saying it. He's not even on the air anymore. He's still saying it.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Oh, I punching a hole for Ali the bin, but I can't help but wondering. Oh, that's the right hole. And I don't know where to look. Is it left or right, up and down? And did I do it right? I don't know. Don't know what the hell I got the ballot is, or going the cock 2 punches will invalidate my vow. Boy, I'm fixing the polls so my brother will win. Just like the third world country, like in Mexico.
Danke.
Vamos acá. Al frente, le voy a dar pasar. Acá se los tiene.
I should ask that last caller if they think that it's appropriate to elect a president based on, errors on confusing ballots. I was just telling George we ought to start a whole series of board games. Yeah, confusion. We can have voter confusion, driver confusion. We can have like on highway signs that show like U-turns that go like around in a circle. Yeah, voter confusion. I like that. And we can use on the box that cartoon that everybody's circulating with all the squiggly lines pointing in all the different directions. That can be on the cover. Voter confusion, because that's what it's all about. And any asshole out there who thinks, oh, well, this is great, we can steal it now because, we're throwing all these votes out. That's great. That's showing your big fat ass to everybody in the world, showing exactly what kind of asshole you are. And wasn't it the Bush people all talking about, well, power back to the people, we trust the people, they trust the government, we trust the people, except when it's convenient. And they're trying desperately. You talk about spinning. Yesterday they were spinning the numbers, and today they're spinning the urgency of, well, let's just, it's time for them to throw in the towel, and the recount's been done, and yada, yada, yada. Little PR they're doing. Here's Sunrise. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Neil. How you doing?
Okay.
Yeah, I heard you talk about, like, Jim Baker before when he said F the Jews.
Yeah.
And George Bush also said the Jews are going to hell because they don't believe in Jesus. So obviously the Republicans...
Yeah, W said that, yeah.
Yeah, the Republicans are going to care about that. My problem is with the media. It seems like they're in the bag for Bush.
Mm-hmm.
Like that National Guard story where Bush was AWOL, that should have been huge news and nobody talked about
it. Right.
He's really
and the Larry Flint story. I mean, the cocaine story, the alleged cocaine arrest in '72. There are just a zillion things out there, but for whatever reason, they gave him a free pass. And every time Gore farted the wrong flavor, they had to make a big song and a dance and convince the American public he was the big liar.
That is the truth. Because Bob Carey, the center of Nebraska, a Vietnam hero,
Yeah.
he's the guy who made a big deal about this, but nobody else talked about it.
Boston Globe had it right there on the front page, and the rest of the media gave it a pass.
Yeah, okay. So I guess, well, the Jews better believe in Jesus if they're going to go to hell. Right?
There you go. If the Jews would just have believed in Jesus,
That's right. And if they believe the dinosaurs were in the Garden of Eden, just like George.
Have a great day. Yeah, we're starting a new organization. It's called Jews for Buchanan.
Boy!
It's just, it's funny and it's pathetic at the same time. It's just tragic. Tragic. Oh, no, you don't understand. They voted for Pat. Uh-huh. Yeah. See, that's what they should have told Karl Rove yesterday when he was making those asinine statements and doing his spin with all those idiotic, bogus numbers about Buchanan's vote. They should have said, hey, guess what, Carl? Most of these came from Jews and blacks. What do you have to say to that? And his answer would have been, huh? Gotta go now. Here's the Lady Mobile in North Miami Beach. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
Me and my husband voted at Sable Palm Elementary School.
Uh-huh.
And I want to raise 2 points. First of all, we were not asked to show our driver license. And all the voters that were in the same line, they were not asked to show their driver license.
Why not?
And the second, I don't know. The second point is that we were handed a pencil to write our signatures. And I know from in Israel we are
Pencil?
Pencil, so they can erase everything.
No, they have a special, there's a special pen that they give you that you're supposed to sign with.
No, it was a pencil.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the law requires every voter to present identification card and also to sign with a pen, so
Right.
they cannot erase the signature.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I hope your vote counted,
I hope so.
but don't be too sure.
Okay.
Good luck. Oh, boy. And they want young people to get interested in politics? Yeah, I don't think that was the first time in years I voted on Tuesday. I don't think I'm going to be wasting my time anytime soon again. You know what I mean? I could have slept an extra hour and a half for all the good it did. Oh, yeah, but your one vote. Yeah, my one vote, if it counted. And you know something? I haven't voted in years, but I'm not exactly a moron. I'm pretty apt at things like that. I can find the hole. But the fact is, even in Broward, which didn't have that butterfly ballot, even when you slide that thing in there and you line it up with the pegs, even in Broward, you have to really take a good close look because it was not the best, not the best. Even the old voting machines, where you pull the lever down, even those would be preferable to this. Because they kept a running tally on the machine, number one. And number two, at least there's no possibility of pushing the wrong lever because the lever is right over the name that you're pushing. As opposed to playing this game. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, punch the dots. What's dot? I've been telling you for years what a dumb country this is, and it really is. I mean, this is somebody's idea of how you elect a president and all the billions and trillions of dollars that are going to be spent and all the decisions that are going to affect the environment and the Supreme Court for decades and generations to come based on this. And they want to get other people involved in the system. Give me a break. Just like this lady that just called. I wonder how many people out there who voted, who took the time and the effort to register and to go and vote on Tuesday, are still wondering whether the vote even got counted.
They'll never know.
And yesterday they had one of the local channels. Did you see that with the absentee ballots that got tossed off? And he was reading the names of some of them. And then David Leahy is saying, "Oh well, they'll never know. These people know because you're using their names."
Nice.
Yeah, nice. It's part of the American system. You never even really know for sure if your vote counts. Nice. 21 before noon at 560 WQAM. Well, they have a queen in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. I mean, they do vote for certain things, but they have a queen. A whole bunch of them I hear. I have got something here that is going to make hair grow. You better sit down, every one of you, no matter what you're doing. If you're on the road, pull off to the side right now. Pull over to the side. This is just enough to make me want to sit here and scream for the next 2 hours and 16 minutes. Florida sent duplicate ballots overseas.
Boy!
At least 5 Florida residents serving the U.S. Air Force Base in England received 2 absentee ballots for this year's hotly contested presidential race, a civilian Department of Defense employee told Salon Magazine, the Internet magazine. Elaine Gatley, 48, a civil service executive secretary stationed at RAF Mildenhall in southeastern England, said Thursday that she and 4 fellow Floridians who work in her office received 2 ballots in the mail from the state of Florida. At first I thought it was just a fluke, Gatley said, but when I went to work the next day, I talked to my friends and they said, yeah, I got 2 also. I got a pair. Gatley, a registered Democrat, completed and returned only 1 of the ballots she received, but she said at least 3 of her fellow Floridians, all of whom are registered Republican, told her they filled them out and returned the second ballots as well. These people thought there was something wrong with the original ballot, who was married to an Air Force serviceman. They just sent the second ballot in thinking maybe something was wrong. The duplicate ballots were mailed from election offices in at least 3 Florida counties, Santa Rosa, Osceola, and Hillsborough, according to Gatley. The multiple ballots were sent to registered Democrats as well as Republicans. But the majority of overseas military people are Republicans, added Gatley. It's usually the spouses of civilians who are the Democrats. One of Gatley's Republican co-workers at the Air Force Base confirmed that she had received 2 ballots from Florida, but requested her name not be used. According to Gatley, the majority of the base's staff comes from Florida. Gatley was formerly employed at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. No one from other states with whom she spoke at Midland received more than 1 absentee ballot, said Gatley. According to Florida Elections Board, it's common for counties to send sample ballots before mailing the official absentee ballot. It should be clearly labeled yada, yada, yada. Absentee ballots are still being counted in the controversial Florida race. Officials say the final absentee tally might not be completed for another 8 or 9 days, etc., and so on. I just mentioned that in passing, because this is such a precise scientific system that we're using. Here's Boynton Beach. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd just like to make a couple of comments. I find it so ironic that the Republicans who wrap themselves in the flag, and they're so emphatic that democracy, we have to democratize the world. We send troops to Haiti to establish a fair and honest election. We invade a sovereign country, Panama, causing several thousand lives to be lost because Noriega overturned a legitimate election. We isolated Serbia because the Milosevic government was illegitimate. We sent U.S. observation teams to East Timor, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador to establish fair elections. I suggest that the Secretary General of the United Nations be contacted and United Nations observers be sent to Palm Beach County to ensure that the citizens of our county, country of the USA, have an election that meets the standards of democracy.
Well said. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm all for you. Thanks. How do you like that? Let's bring in the goddamn UN, the National Guard, the SPCA, the JDL, the ADL.
To stop this coup in progress.
NAACP. Oh, they're already there? Jesse, oh, that's right, he's there too. One thing you gotta hand it to Jesse, boy, he never missed a photo op in his life. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Don't forget our good, close personal friend Joe Costello. He'll be on tomorrow morning, 6 to 7, and then Sunday, 9 to noon, with some NASCAR crap. And he's at the QAM van at the Citgo gas station from noon to 2 today, selling the best of Neil stuff. That's in the Pompano Beach Service Center on the Turnpike Atlantic Boulevard, with our CDs, cassettes, keychains, and T-shirts. And all that good stuff. Yeah, sure, it'd be nice to I was hoping for $150,000 this year, but they got kind of a blasé attitude in the other room. Kind of like, well, I'm leaving, so. I just mentioned that in passing, too. Here's Tamarack. Hello. Tamarack. Yes, sir.
So, what do you think Hadassah's saying right now?
What do I think? What?
Hadassah is saying.
Oi!
567-0560, pound 560. I like that sock. Was that sock or is that a piece of halava that he had stuck in the phone? One or the other. Here's the Mobile and Tavernier. Hello.
Yeah, a couple things.
Yes, sir.
At the end of one of those Miami Herald articles, the 5,000 articles there in the paper today, it said that somewhere on that Palm Beach ballot, to only vote for one candidate per page. Well, if you want to talk about confusing, when you have the presidential candidate spread over 2 pages, sounds like a totally confusing instruction to add to all the other problems with that ballot.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's in the Miami Herald article.
Well, I have the, if I can find it in the middle of all this crap I got here, I've got the here it is. Here's the instruction page. It says, using both hands, insert the ballot card all the way into the vote-o-matic. Be sure the 2 slots at the end of your card fit down over the 2 red pins. To vote, use the punching instrument attached by chain to the vote-o-matic. Punch straight down through the hole to the right of the arrow by the candidate or issue of your choice. Do not use any other punching instruments. Vote all pages. After voting, remove the ballot card from the vote-o-matic, place it in the gray security envelope, and take it to the ballot box.
Yeah, okay, the Herald obviously paraphrased.
Well, wait a minute. Well, let me finish. It says, if you make a mistake, return your ballot card, obtain another. And to vote for a write-in, it doesn't say anything about vote only on one page. I got it right in my hand.
Vote all pages, I guess, is what the Herald was talking about.
Yeah, it says vote all pages, but it doesn't say punch.
In other words, you vote on the page that starts with Bush, and you vote on the page that starts with Buchanan.
That's another excellent point. Why would you vote on the second page? Because you'd be voiding your ballot.
Exactly.
Because you'd be voting for 2 candidates for the same office. Excellent job, sir.
That's one other thing, and that is that Bob Dole and the Republicans are saying they'll wrap this up, it's over, Gore should back
Can't imagine
why
why.
would anybody say that before the absentee ballots are in with 300-vote lead? It doesn't make any sense.
See, they're
forgetting the
they're
ballot
trying
problem.
to assume their way in. They say, well, the absentee overseas ballot's always Republican. Well, how about waiting and counting them in the meantime? And also, during that period of time, since we have till next Friday, that the law requires those to be counted, in the meantime, let's see what else we find out.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, they don't want to do that because they know they lost.
Yeah,
Thanks very much. Thanks a lot. Yeah, see, there you go. There's another great job. And, sir, I thank you profusely. See, I didn't understand what he was saying first, because the Herald had it wrong. It doesn't say vote only for one candidate on each page. It says vote all pages. Guess what? Wrong. Right on the very first and second page they're wrong, without turning anything. Because the first page is the page, where the hell is it? I've got it here on the ballot. Bush and Cheney, Gore and Lieberman, Brown and Olivier, Nader and LaDuke, Harris and Troe, Hagelin and Goldhaber. And on the second page is Buchanan and Foster, McReynolds and Hollis, Phillips and Frazier, and Monica Gimme Moorhead and La Riva. And if you vote on both of those pages, guess what? Another double dipper, your ballot's tossed out, the whole thing. This ballot in Palm Beach is invalid. The instructions are invalid. The entire thing is invalid. There must be another election in Palm Beach County. There must be. Either that or they just go ahead and invalidate Florida and it's all over and Gore wins. Because that's the provision the Constitution makes. If they throw out a state, then it's just a majority of the electoral votes from the other states. And like I said earlier, and I really mean it, if they want to recount Iowa, go ahead. I think they are. If they're going to recount Wisconsin, Arizona, New Hampshire, fine. Get it right. Get it right. But don't elect somebody based on fraud. And I'll tell you, not only is it brought up there in Palm Beach County, that La Poupe or whatever her name is, but all the elections officials from both parties in Tallahassee, I think they all ought to be in jail. Or maybe the reform school, one or the other, or both. Here's a lady in Palm Beach. Hello.
Hi, Neil.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just have a quick, brief point that I heard on TV yesterday, and I want somebody to confirm it. And in 1996, they had 14,000 ballots.
Yeah, we've already been through that. That was just the overs. This is over and under. This is a 30,000 total instead of 19.
Right, I know, but then they kicked out 19,000 this time because of double punches.
Yeah.
Well, they're not 19,000 idiots in Palm Beach County. So if they had this big of a mistake in 96, doesn't that tell somebody
I said
that
there's about
this ballot
300,000
is
idiots
no
in Palm
good?
Beach. What is it?
If they had 14,000 thrown out in 96,
Yeah.
why would we keep that ballot for 19,000 to make the same mistake again? Because the ballot is not accurate. I voted in Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
And I didn't, when I first looked at it, I said, what is this? And it took me a few seconds to hone in on what was going on, and then I know that I did vote the right one if I had my card lined up right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm not one of the elderly that has a hard time pushing these cards down into this
Mm-hmm.
and then getting my sight fixed in on something. This card was invalid. How many elections have gone by with this card that people have voted?
How many bogus? Because they're talking about Dade County. They had to toss out 17,000. How many of these bogus ballots are they going to keep throwing out and just saying, well, it just goes with the territory before they decide to really give everybody an opportunity to have their vote count?
Exactly. They're saying, well, you should get it right. Well, they should get it right and make it easier, even if it comes down to putting a picture of the presidential candidate on there so we can circle it.
There you go.
I don't care how they do it.
Not a bad idea.
But I appreciate, I just wanted to see if y'all had heard anything about that. And listen, if it's not working, then we need to get something.
Okay.
I moved here from Alabama this year. Even in Alabama, we had the machines that had the lever on it.
Yeah, what does that tell you? If Alabama's ahead of us, what does that tell you?
But we're going to build a $35 billion bullet train to Orlando.
Yeah.
And we've got these antiquated vote machines here in Palm Beach County.
With money that nobody has any idea where it's going to come from, don't forget.
People better fear if George Bush goes into office.
I fear right now. I'm squeezing my passport as hard as I can.
I don't blame you.
Good luck, sweetheart. See you on the plane. I'm squeezing it. Here's this is very big. We've got about 400 of these cartoons. The official Florida presidential ballot. Follow the arrow and punch the appropriate dot. Bush with a straight arrow to the dot. Then it lists Buchanan, Gore, and Nader, and each one starts with a squiggly line, and they all wind up like in a goddamn web, like in a spider web maze. Like I said, in a maze. Yeah, they're in a maze, but they also looks like a goddamn spider web. I'm amazed just looking at it. And then they finally do come out pointing at the arrow. It's kind of like that thing they do at the Panther games, like the game on Price is Right. You know, where they put the thing under there, follow the ball. Which shell? It's a shell game. Which ball is under which shell? And it's the same thing here. Which one's got the Tony? Which dot is the one you want to stick it in? Which hole are you looking to probe? 4 minutes before noon at 560 WQA.
Sports Radio 560 WQAM Miami, Fort Lauderdale. A Beasley Broadcast Group station and WQAM.com for the world.
It's Friday, you bastard.
I could really go for some popcorn right now, but I'm nowhere near a microwave.
You don't need to be.
Sure I do. How am I going to pop it?
Here, I'll show you. Have a seat. Now slide this right under you.
Oh, hey, whoa, watch it there.
Now hold real still. Think nice thoughts. And in 5 minutes, you'll have poppin' fresh Tiny Corn.
Tiny Corn?
Yes, great. Tiny Corn pops up fresh with the warmth of your very own ass.
Whoa, hey, that feels really weird.
Yeah, never mind that.
Let go.
Unless you like it, of course. Sit still and hold tight.
It's a little funky here. Ow.
Ooh, Tiny Corn. Quick, easy, and right from your own ass.
What I tell you about that corn, huh? Comes out the same way it goes in. 1201 at 560 WQAM. And look at that. The market has taken a big dive. They're not too happy now. They want that declaration. They want this to be handed over to them on a platter. Put the crown on there. Put it on Georgie's head. Let them start talking with a lisp. James Baker's having a press conference coming up in a couple of minutes. He's going to probably blame the old Jews. The virulently anti-Semitic James Baker, good close personal buddy of the Bush clan. Here's Miami. Hello.
Neil.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how you doing?
Okay.
This whole farce reminds me of a quote from Joe Stalin, our good dictator friend. He said, "It's not important who votes; it's important who counts the votes."
Right.
And I think that's what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, can we switch gears a little bit to the brothers Murray?
Yeah.
What do you think the chances of them getting Valerie Burry for Niedermeyer are?
Well, the rumor is they want Niedermeyer and Worrell for Valerie Burry. I would do it in 5 seconds. Geldy asked me that in the tea room this morning. I said, you bet I'd do it in 2 seconds.
And also, Derek Morris is holding out. They might be able to get him.
Right.
I mean, he's pretty exciting. So.
Take him right now.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Keep it up.
Okay, thanks. We love the Panthers. They lose a lot. If you want to go to our NeilRogers.com, not just to vote on our poll, but Eric has got the Florida voting statutes, being the brilliant man that he is. He's got it all on there. Index of voting statutes, voting machine ballots, requirements for voting machines, voting by electronic or electromechanical method procedures, ballot requirements, voting by paper ballot. They're all on there, and you can read them for yourself. And then our poll, now that the Florida recount is finished, should Al Gore concede defeat? We have 271 votes so far. 186 say no, that's 68.6%. 85 say yes, 31.3%. With a margin of 327 votes, and the overseas ballot's still not even counted yet. Not even arrived yet. Here's Miami. Hello.
Hey, hello, Dale.
Yes, sir.
My coworker, she told me just the other day that she went to vote without a card, without a voter's registration card or any ID. And I say, are you serious? She said, yeah.
Just walked in, just showed up?
Yeah. She said she showed up. They give her a pencil, say, go ahead, sign here. And who are you voting for, by the way? She said, that's none of your business who I'm voting for.
Yeah.
I said, oh, my God.
They said, who are you voting for, by the way?
Yeah. Yeah, they're asking who she's voting for. So what they need to do with that is, in Hialeah, everyone in Hialeah should go vote somewhere else with a cop there because, I mean, they're all about scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys in Hialeah is like, if they're running an election or they're voting for the governor or the president, they're going to cheat. I mean, they're going to cheat.
Not in Dade County, sir. Come on.
Yeah, Dade County, sir. Yeah, she said if she would have known, she would have voted twice, one for her, one for her dead grandfather.
There you go. Now she's learning. Now she's catching on.
You know, I mean, these Julios over there in Hialeah, if you own a business, you let them run it, they bankrupt you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's you running for president, they elect their own people. You know, they vote 5, 6, 7 times. You know, it's just that they shouldn't vote at all.
Okay, amigo. Stay, like Jesse says, stay out of the bushes, stay out of Hialeah.
You know, I got my chainsaw because I'm cutting all those bushes down, baby.
Okay, get busy. Okay. I got a real surprise. I got my own ace up the sleeve. I got an ace in the hole. Because I'm going to be going out of the country. I'm going on vacation very soon in just a few days here. And I might just be abroad. No, I don't mean that. But I might just be overseas. And you know what? You can send those ballots in by FedEx, I'll bet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find me about 2,000 ballots, 2,000 Florida ballots. And what I'm going to do is just pop them all in my pocket. I'll put them in my little bag. And then I'll mail them all in FedEx with 2,000 different names. How does that sound? Oh, they'll never know. And then, of course, we got those 72 million Jews in Israel. Oh, here's James Baker. He's not too happy about the Jews.
Overseeing that recount were Democrats. At the end of this recount, Governor Bush is still the winner, subject only to counting the overseas ballots, which traditionally have favored the Republican candidates.
Yeah, traditionally. So
no evidence of vote
fraud,
either in the original vote or in the recount has been presented.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Gore campaign is calling for yet another recount. In selective and predominantly Democratic counties where there were large, unexplained vote swings in their favor in the recount.
Unexplained.
It appears that the Gore campaign is attempting to unduly prolong the country's national presidential election through endless challenges to the results of the vote.
This is unbelievable.
Here in Florida.
This is like Heinrich
Furthermore, the more often ballots are recounted, especially by hand, the more likely it is that human errors, like lost ballots and other risks, will be introduced.
Mm-hmm.
This frustrates the very reason why we have moved from hand counting to machine counting.
A hand job, is that what you're giving us?
Let me say a word specifically about the Palm Beach ballot.
About those Jews down there, yeah.
There's a rule of law to be followed in all elections. The state of Florida has established legal procedures to design, approve, publish, and if need be, to protest ballots before the election. The ballot was designed by a Democratic elections supervisor.
Oh, that makes it legal, I guess.
She approved it.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Party did not question it before the election.
Yeah.
This butterfly-type ballot was used in recent elections in the same county and under the same rules, and again, the Democrats did not complain. The overwhelming majority of voters who used the ballot in this election understood it, and they cast valid votes. Our lawyers have confirmed the legality of this ballot. We have with us here today relevant copies of the relevant Florida statutes, if you would like to have them. The Gore campaign has also tried to make a lot of the fact that double-marked ballots are not counted. A key principle in American elections is one person, one vote. If we have ballots with 2 votes, of course we can't count them.
But I hate to break the news to you, James Baker, my anti-Semitic friend. It says right there in the voter instruction, vote all pages. Vote all pages. So even though the double punch probably were on the same page, the fact is that let's say they would have voted for Gore or Bush and Buchanan or anybody on our moniker give me more head, that they were following instructions, and guess what? Automatically invalidates the ballot. So you can try to put whatever spin you want on it, my anti-Semitic glacier friend, but the fact is it ain't going to work. The process is still going to go through. But this is their campaign now, is to try to talk their way in by 327 votes into the White House. Very tragic. 9 minutes after noon at 560 WQ.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
This campaign that they're running now, full court press to try to brainwash the public. I'm going to put another second of this James Baker thing on. I was listening to it during the break here. To try to put the onus, to point the finger at the Gore people. Like, we've had the first election, and now we've had the second recount in Florida, and it was done very openly and transparently, and it was honest and fair, and now it's over, and now it's time for them to, and not to keep asking for more votes to be counted. Because they know they've only got 300. They know they lost. They know they lost. They've got 327 that they're hanging on to. And they know damn well, going back to that story about the thousands, where's that thing about the manual recount? In the midst of my 50,000 pages here. Thousands of undervotes are at issue. And again, the undervotes are the ones in which there is a race that is not voted for. Possibly. But you know as well as I do that nobody goes in the presidential election and doesn't vote for president. It's possible, especially with this group of candidates, but it's unlikely. And the likely thing is here that the actual ballots have to be inspected to see if the chads, the little paper tab on the back, was pushed all the way through, and if not, the computer doesn't count them. That's why there needs to be a manual recount. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. 6,686 undervotes in Broward, 10,750 in Dade, about 10,000 in Palm Beach, and I'm sure many thousands more around the state. You see, this is a question of getting it right, Mr. Baker, a question of getting it right. And you can get up there and make your big goddamn speech, you and Karl Rove and Kathy Hughes, you can all get up there and make all the speeches you want. The fact is that the American public deserves to have the winner being the president for the next 4 years. And you lost. And if they go through this recount and Bush still wins, there he is. Put the crown on. He's the president. I have no problem with that if he wins. Do I think he's going to win?
No.
No. And that's what they're schmitting bricks now. You can smell it coming out of his pants. Right on the floor. Desperately trying to put this big spin. That's all they've been doing. And this shows very clearly they don't believe in this business about one man and one vote and power to the people. No. They believe in power to them. Hand over the keys, baby. We're moving in. They got the moving vans just going up Pennsylvania Avenue right now. It's not even December yet. Still like 3 days after the election. They're already knocking on the door saying, okay, Bubba, get out of here. Go play golf. Because they believe that they have this right, given by God, by Jesus, whoever gave it to them. Maybe the Trilateral Commission gave it to them. Who knows? The Bushes. What's the hurry? These are the same people that spent $50, $60, $70 million investigating the same things over and over and over again. Whitewater, Penisgate. When they started the impeachment hearings at that time, I remember Ken Starr sitting there and said that they had absolutely no evidence. He actually made this statement. They had no evidence of any culpability by the Clintons. Did that stop them?
No.
No. They spent millions more of your tax dollars. It went on and on because they were hell-bent to get Clinton no matter how long it took. There was no hurry. Even though they created a constitutional crisis and put this country through a goddamn impeachment proceeding for only the second time in its history. So in that case, there was no urgency whatsoever. And he's even sitting here admitting, he's standing there, humping there, whatever he's doing, admitting that we have to wait till the overseas ballots come in. Well, the deadline for that is next Friday, November 17th. Which gives us 7 days. And in the meantime, if we discover that there have been errors on these ballots, then for God's sakes, if there's only a margin of 327, let's find out. Let's get a fair count. Let's get a fair count. And if there was some hanky-panky in Palm Beach with a change in the recount, then let's find that too if it goes in the other direction. That's what the Republicans are claiming. That on the first count it was only 6, and then it wound up being 600. Well, let's find out about that. But they're putting the full court press on to bring this to a conclusion right now. It is absolutely unacceptable. And I'll tell you the people I'm really embarrassed for. They had a couple of them on with their town hall meeting yesterday, and we've had a couple of calls like this these last couple of days, and I can see it in the vote here on our poll. Are the Democrats, the Gore supporters who are saying, oh yeah, well it'll make him look better and it'll be good for the country. No, it will not be good for the country. It will not be good for your children, for your grandchildren, for women, for minorities, for anybody else. To let these people steal a presidential election away. If that's the kind of a wimp you are, I don't want to even waste my time with you. I mean, here it is. It's like having it's like having a hold-up in your house in the middle of broad daylight, and you got blinders on and pretend you can't see it.
I'll look better if I just let them steal my stuff.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't know nothing. And they're talking about the Gore people. And let me say it again. The people who are filing the lawsuits are voters in Palm Beach County. They're the ones who are filing complaints because they want their vote counted. So again, if the Bush people really believe in the power of the people, all this crap he kept repeating, these trite cliches, debate after debate, campaign pit stop after pit stop about power to the people, then how about letting the people make sure that their vote counts? And the reason you don't want to make sure of that is because you know, and the Republican lawyer said yesterday, I'll say it again, they know if there's another election in Palm Beach County, that Gore will be the next president. They know that. Because they know that the majority of people in the state of Florida went to the polls on Tuesday wanting to vote for Al Gore. Period. And just because you stand there and give us a song and a dance that it's a legal ballot, you know what I say to you? Bullcrap, okay? That's what I say to you. Bullshit, that's what I say. There is no chance in hell that's a legal ballot. And I don't care how many judges come out. You don't have to be a lawyer, because I'm sick and tired of lawyers. You just look at what it says there. Even the instructions are wrong. Not to mention the fact that Gore's hole is supposed to be right under the Bush hole, and instead it's on the third hole. They don't want the process to be done right. They don't give a crap about the people getting their chance to vote. They want it, and we're supposed to hand it over to them. Here's a call from Naples. Hello.
Yeah, Neil. Keep up the good work, buddy. Listen, Neil, over here there's a lot of complaints about lawyers getting involved in this thing. But I wanted to mention, perhaps you heard that days before the election, including on Rush Limbaugh's show the Monday before the election, he was saying the Bush camp had contingencies to challenge if they won the popular vote and lost the electoral vote. Mm-hmm. So they were perfectly willing to delay this process. Mm-hmm. So this whole thing about a delay in impeding the nomination is absolutely ridiculous.
And guess what? Gore won the popular vote, and they didn't. How do you like that? What a surprise.
It was a switch.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Neil, keep it up.
Thanks for the good news. Yeah, see, it's okay for them, like I said, with Penisgate and Whitewater and Travelgate and all these other investigations. They have more goddamn investigations and we're spending more of your tax dollars than you can shake your thing at. And it was only just a few weeks ago that they finally came out with this stuff. Right before, interestingly enough, right before the New York senatorial race, they were hoping against hope to come up with something against Hillary. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find anything to the level that raised to the level of criminal act in Whitewater. But they sure gave it their best shot. For years, not for a few days like people are asking with the election, let's get it right. For years. Who the hell are they kidding? Here's Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Neil.
Yes, sir.
How you doing there, sir?
Okay.
I've been listening to your show for a while. My name is Wade, and I really appreciate a show like yours. I just have a hockey question for you, sir. I didn't hear about the latest trade rumor with the Panthers.
Yeah.
Now, and I want to get your input about the Rangers this year, the New York Rangers.
My input?
Yes, sir.
Who is it? Are they still playing? No interest. 5670560, pound 560. That was the phony voice. That was just sounded like, what's his name, with his dog racing. 5670560, pound 560. But I'm glad he called, amazingly enough, and you want to know why? Because I'm going to say something that I was biting my tongue. I wasn't going to say it, but I'll say it anyway. I'm in my car last night about 6:15. I was going to Publix to pick up a few things. And maybe it's only me, because I do this for a living, and I have to sit here and talk about this. But I think that there are millions of people out there who, since the election day, this is all we've been talking about. Anywhere you go, this is all everybody I run into is talking about. And I'm sitting in my car, and I turn on IOD, the news station. What do they got? They're talking sports. They have their sportscast on. I turn over to INZ. They have Ed Bye Till talking about naked people, some of the usual silly crap there with their fraction audience. I'm flipping around the dial, on the AM dial. There is nobody in this market talking about what everybody wants to talk about. And Hank Goldberg is the only person on this radio station in the sports department who's got enough common sense and enough brains to understand that, because when he was here on Wednesday, and he'll be here today from San Diego, he's out on the West Coast for the ball game this weekend, you don't even have common sense enough to realize that this is what people, sure, he threw a little sports in there, he took a couple of calls, but generally speaking, this is what he was talking about. Do our morning people understand that? No. And much to my chagrin, and I like Boog. Boog's a great guy, but did he understand that yesterday? No. It's the college football mentality again. That's all they know from in this town. That's all they can talk about, that core of people. In their little narrow universe, that's all they know. So I'm glad that this jackass called with this phony call. Because I'm embarrassed by it. I really am. I'm humiliated by it. Here's Pembroke Pines. Hello.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Neil.
Yes, I am.
First of all, I want to tell you, I lived in Las Vegas for 8 years, and they have the greatest way that you ever want to vote in your life. They have voting machines that you can go to early voting 2 weeks ahead of time. You can vote for 2 whole weeks in early voting places like in the Fashion Show Mall and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can vote for your candidate. There's a precinct worker at a computer. If you got a absentee ballot, you cannot vote in a voting machine. You got to be registered. They check your name out. It's on a central computer, and then they give you a card to go to your voting booth. There's a precinct worker in front of each voting booth that helps you into it. And if you pull a lever for Gore, that's it. You cannot pull a lever for Gore and Bush or Gore and Buchanan or Gore and anybody. After you come out, the precinct worker checks to see if you voted, and the light goes off, and that's it. And it's the greatest way I've ever seen of voting in my life. I lived there for 8 years. I've worked the early voting and the regular voting. And most of the people are voting now early voting 2 weeks ahead of time, and all the early vote. Plus, they have mobile units going around to all the places to help people into the booths to help them vote. Can you imagine if that would have happened here? Them people going to Century Village and Boca Raton and all those places with the old people and helping them into these mobile units, they never would have voted wrong. Never. You'll never see a wrong vote in Las Vegas County.
Okay, pal, and don't forget to bet the overs. 5670560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. I'm just getting angrier and angrier and more psychotic. And they keep pointing the fingers at the other side. They're the ones now that are turning this into a totally partisan pissing contest, as opposed to just letting the legal machinery go through. The judge in Palm Beach has held up the certification of the ballots until Tuesday. What's the problem with that? In addition to which, they're the ones who requested a recount in Palm Beach County. Democrats and the Republicans. So I guess maybe they changed their mind. Maybe they decided, this isn't such a good idea after all, because you know what? I think we're going to lose. Yeah, we'll take a pass on that recount. It's like refusing a penalty. Nah, we decided we don't want to take it after all. Game over. '26th afternoon at 560 WQAM.
Hey, yo, man, what's up with your forgotten Mr.
Okay, we got to correct. Miguel was very upset that he took it personal, what I said about the promotions people. Didn't I say the nephew? I mentioned the nephew because he's leaving. And I just, to prove to Miguel how much I love him, I stuck my tongue way down his throat, and he's got a big smile on his face. Anyway, here's a fax that says, heard you say that all votes from the invalid double-punch ballots were tossed out. That is correct. Since District 22 extends up to areas of Palm Beach County, I'm very curious now as to how many ballot/votes in the Elaine Bloom, Clay Shaw election were tossed out. Most seemingly would have been for Bloom. How many did Shaw win by? About 560. How do you like that? So we're going to put the guy back in Congress, this old fossil Clay Shaw, who's been there for 500 years. We're going to put him back, it looks like, based on crap. See, I don't know. I don't understand why it's so complicated. They want us to vote. They keep tuning the public out for not voting. They keep bemoaning the fact that most people have no interest. And then when people do go and vote, you have to go through a big song and dance and stand on your head to try and make sure that your vote counts. And even when you walk away, you're not sure it did count. There isn't one of you listening to me right now who can guarantee to me that the vote that you cast on Tuesday, including me, that the vote was counted. I don't know. I'm hoping, but I don't know.
5 ballots. And there is a razor-edge lead by Governor Bush over Vice President Gore, and there's only 1 week left.
Yeah, we know that, Greta. Quit overstating the obvious, okay, bitch? Go back and suck OJ's ass. Here's Hollywood. Hello.
How you doing?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, they haven't, you can see that the Bush people are really, fascist here because they haven't even done a recount yet. What they've done is a recanvassing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when there's less than 0.5% left, not only do they recanvass, but they have either party has the right to recount by hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Gore hasn't even asked for the whole state, which he can ask for. He can say, I want the whole state, all 6 million votes recounted by hand.
Mm-hmm.
He's just asked for certain counties
right.
to be recounted,
mm-hmm.
and they're complaining about this. It's absolutely amazing.
And like I said, they also asked the other day for a recount in Palm Beach County because they said there were irregularities in the disparity between the initial numbers and the ones in the first recount.
Right. Well, I think what they wanted was a recanvassing, and they put them all together. When the Palm Beach Commission got together the other day, they said, well, this will help the Bush people too, because when Gore asked for a recount by hand, they said, well, it'll serve both purposes, but I think they wanted them to be recanvassed by machine again.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I heard Paul Begala last night say that we don't necessarily need to have a re-election in Palm Beach. They can, a judge can order that officials, ballot officials, look at the ballots and determine consistency, meaning
right.
that if they punched both for Gore and Buchanan and voted Democratic the rest of the ticket, it was obvious that they were meaning to vote for Gore
right.
and to count.
And I should point out that when you say when they threw those ballots out, they disqualified them, but of course they still have them. The law requires them to keep all of those ballots, so they still exist. It's not like you threw them in a trash can somewhere, we hope, but they still exist, but they just didn't count.
Well, absolutely, because they have to count the other races on there, too, so they have to keep the ballots. But, I mean, that can happen, too, so I'm willing to go with that, because if they look at the people in Century Village who voted for Buchanan...
58 of them.
Yeah, and all the double punches, you're going to tell me that most of those people didn't vote straight Democratic ticket? Come on.
Yeah.
And also the Gore people did mention that that's where those votes were coming from, that they were coming from mostly Jewish and blacks and a lot of other people.
They conveniently left that out. What they're trying to do again is spin the information and try to make it seem like, oh, Palm Beach, he's really got a big backing there. And even Buchanan laughed at that. He said it's a bunch of crap. He never even showed his face in Palm Beach during the campaign.
Exactly. That's what the Bush people said. They said, "Oh, there's a big reform movement going on in Palm Beach," and the Democrats had mentioned that. Look, this is coming from predominantly liberal places, and it's absolutely ridiculous. They're fascist, and they don't want you to vote because Republicans like low turnouts in the vote, and everything they do just proves their fascist nature. You know what I'm saying?
And they got really indignant when Gore was talking over the last week in the campaign about Reconstruction and about the the 3/5 black people being 3/5 of one vote, and was talking about the good difference between good and evil in the black churches of that prayer breakfast. But the fact is, who's got the last laugh about that right now with all the black voters that they try to turn away and deny their vote on Tuesday?
Amen. And you know who those black voters turned out to vote against, don't you? It was Jeb. And I think that he was ready for it, and he knew that they were coming because of all that affirmative action crap that happened a couple of months ago. They all came out in droves, and I think that's why we saw what we saw. And now he's history, man, because
he's dead meat.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to do that the next time around because they'll be ready for it the next time around, and he's gone. And we're going to drag him out by the scrotum across the state line.
All right.
All right.
I'll help you.
Bye-bye.
Take him up to Georgia. He fit in there like a rubber glove. I don't think they'd let him in. Now, you know something? I'm not a rocket scientist, but I've already got 99 of the 327 votes back. 13 in Riviera Beach, all black, 13 black votes. 58 in Century Village. That's 81. And, oh, wait a minute, maybe my math is wrong. Well, that's 71. No, my math is right. And 28, that's 99. In the precinct 171A, Jews. See, I hate to break the news to you. Jews didn't vote for Pat Buchanan. There were some Jews who voted for Bush. I don't want to mention any names. There were some Jews for Bush, but Jews didn't vote for Pat Buchanan. Neither did Schwarzers. Okay? And any judge who would look at that would see the irregularity and see that the intent of those voters was to vote for Al Gore. So there's 99 without even trying. I'm just sitting here on my ass. And the 327 now is down to 228.
227.
How do you figure that?
That's what it says on MSNBC.
No, I said the 327 is down to 228 because I got 99.
Well, I'm distracted by the 260, which is the total out at the van.
Oh, we got 260 at the van. Joe Costello's at the QM van, noon to 2, from now to 2.
Don't forget the exciting NASCAR race simulator later.
At the Citgo station on the southbound side of the turnpike at Atlantic Boulevard in Pompano Beach with the best of Neil CDs, cassettes, keychains, and T-shirts. Yeah, Miguel was very wounded. Sorry, sweetheart.
You kissed him better.
I kissed him and made it feel much better. Yeah. That's what he wanted.
Kisses boo-boo.
He wanted somebody to make nice to him, and I made nice. 22 before 1. Why do I keep saying that? I don't know, because I'm just losing it. There's Robert Wexler.
County, one of 67 counties on Election Day, used this confusing illegal ballot procedure.
Martha, can a confusing
literally thousands across the country use this ballot, including Chicago.
No, absolutely. See, they keep saying this. This is bullcrap. They use a butterfly ballot, but they don't have the candidates for any race on 2 different pages. All the candidates for any individual contest are on the same page. God, why doesn't somebody get up there who knows what the hell they're talking about? I mean, I don't know that much, but just sitting here and reading the newspaper and keeping my ears open, they don't want the goddamn truth. All it is spin. Just keep spinning it like a dreidel at Hanukkah time. Just keep spinning it. I shouldn't have said Hanukkah, get James Baker upset. Cocks ahoy, Jimmy. Anti-Semite prick.
The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560. QAM.
It's Friday, you bastard.
I'll never get these stains out of my husband's shorts.
You will now. Introducing new No laundry detergent with ScumGuard. Let's face it, human bodily fluids are the toughest stains to remove from valuable undergarments. Whether it's snot, vaginal secretions, blood, even semen. New No attacks these tough stains with patented ScumGuard for a deep down clean. Try new No today, and if you're not completely satisfied, we'll double your money back.
No
with ScumGuard. Okay, thank you. 16 to 1 at 560 WQM. Somebody faxed me the statutes, the Florida statutes on which votes are legal and which ones are not. In other words, the grounds for overturning and changing the result. All of that is on our website, neilrogers.com, because it gets real heavy-duty and complicated.
Who are your clients?
Our clients are disenfranchised voters. Right now there are 3 named clients. There are literally 1,000 others who've called us.
Now, who have you sued?
We've sued, by statute, we're required to sue the supervisor of elections and canvassing board here in Palm Beach County.
Good, let that bitch have it. Governor Jeb, here's a fax, says wants the 20,000 plus over and under voter cards in Palm Beach County thrown out because the punch holes were clogged with citrus canker.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. State law says anything with canker must be destroyed. So if you got one on your lip, crawl into the bed till it heals up, and the canker too. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. A manual recount is opposed by the Republican Party of Dade County. See, they asked for Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and Volusia. But the Republican Party of Dade faxed a letter late Thursday to David Leahy, the county supervisor of elections, and says, there are neither facts nor proof presented sufficient to show an error in the initial vote tabulation or in the recount that could affect the outcome of the election, local chairwoman Mary Ellen Miller wrote. Probably afraid they'll catch all those dead voters again. The 3 members of the canvassing board will meet Tuesday morning to consider the request. Leahy and 2 county court judges, Lawrence D. King and Miriam Lear, sit on the board. Leahy said the manual recount, if granted, could turn up additional votes for any of the presidential candidates. The 10,750 ballots in question may be true undervotes, but they also may be hanging chads, Leahy said. There's nothing worse than having hanging chads. It's like popping a bad roid. Oh, I got hanging chads. God, and they itch like hell. During a manual recount, election workers would inspect the ballots and look for any kind of mark or indentation on a ballot, Leahy said. Any suspect ballots would be shown to the canvassing board. The canvassing board would determine by law whether it is a vote or not, Leahy said. If the chat is truly hanging, there is no question. Certainly that is a vote. It is where there might be a little indentation but no separation. Those are the tough ones to figure out. And all this crap about, well, what's good for the country? What's good for the country is that we have a fair election and that everybody gets the ultimate opportunity to have their vote count. That's what's fair. And that the person who really won the election should be declared the winner. That's what's fair. And this bum's rush, this campaign they got going on now, is enough to make you puke. Oh, yeah, wouldn't you know, it's the former chairman of the RNC, the Republican National Council. It's on there lying again about the Chicago butterfly ballot. Liar, liar. It's on fire. It is not the same. They keep using the same old arguments that were discredited like 24 hours ago. Because they got nothing else. Just like Carl Rove trying to give us a song and a dance about the Jews and the blacks and how much they love Pat Buchanan in Palm Beach County. Good one, Carl. What time's your show on? Here's a mobile in Margate. Hello.
Hi there, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think we got this time Votergate.
Yeah, Votergate. Good one.
It's the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know those ABC polls, everybody's down on ABC because they hit that early. But how are they supposed to take it? Those are exit polls, right?
Right, uh-huh.
They take that on people leaving thinking they voted for Gore.
Right.
Where did their vote go?
Well, this tells you why every single one of the networks had their exit polling. Sure, that Gore was the winner, and then they had to eat crow. In fact, I remember very specifically on NBC, they said, well, the reason that we had to change our projection is because of irregularities in Dade County precincts. Yeah. So they had to make a change. Well, look, it takes a lot longer for those dead people to vote. So they don't start coming in slow. Yeah, they're slow and they're ponderous. And when you scream at them to hurry up and they don't pay too much attention, they don't respond too good. They're a little stiff. 567-0560, pound 560 on the AT&T and Verizon wireless line. Mobile in Delray Beach. Hello.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
I'm okay.
Long time since I've called you, but I listen as often as I can.
Okay.
I just want to point out that most of the Republican spin, including James Baker, say that Teresa Lepore, our supervisor of elections, is a Democrat.
Yeah.
The only reason she's a Democrat is because she decided to run countywide. She was a Republican before that, and
she was a Republican before that?
She was a Republican, yes. Look into it, will you, Neil?
I'll look into it.
All right, and another thing, if Bush does slide himself into this thing, you know, about the only thing he's going to pass is gas, because he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Right. Yeah, he's going to be up against it, man. Can you imagine stealing the election by 327 votes and then going in there, oh, but we got a mandate. Yeah, you got a mandate. I don't wish him on us, but I almost wish it on him. Because he's already bewildered and befuddled. He hasn't got a freaking clue. The only problem is you already see the package of fascists that, like James Baker, all these that go along with it. It's a package deal. Then I think I'll take a pass on that if we can. Here's a lady in Boca. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Like you said, I'm in Boca Raton. Because of a disability, I wasn't physically able to go to the polls. I voted absentee-ballot.
Right.
I did everything they asked me to do absolutely correctly. I got every little tab off the back. I put it in the appropriate envelope, in their envelope.
Right.
I'm not overseas. I'm in the county. I spoke to the Elections Commission's office 3 times yesterday. They assured me not only was my vote not received, but not counted. She was very flippant about this, by the way. Oh, well, it got lost in the mail. You know, I've never had a bill to a phone company or cable company not get delivered, but a government ballot to elect the president just disappears. I campaigned very heavily for Gore. I was excited to have gotten my vote, and I called people today and said, 1 vote for Gore. And as an American citizen, I'm livid. I want my vote counted. If Bush's vote wasn't counted, how would he feel? Well, he'd pay someone, you know, off to have...
Well, you know, speaking of the post office, I mean, we haven't heard much about this today, but there were allegations. There was in Pensacola that there were postal employees who intercepted a whole bunch of absentee ballots, and we never really heard what the allegations were or which way it goes, but they're looking into fraud up there in Pensacola with absentee ballots, too. So, you know, when you're dealing with the post office, it's kind of like the intermediary. Who knows where your ballot wound up?
It's fraudulent. This is a discrimination against... I'm disabled. I can't get in there to vote. My vote, I want my vote to be counted. I want this remedied. This is inexcusable. Yeah. Where are my rights as an American?
Good luck, sweetheart.
Thanks.
Okay. How do you like that? Thousands and thousands and thousands of people, blacks, handicapped, just ordinary run-of-the-mill goyim, whoever the hell they were. I'm just reading. I'm reading stuff. Here's a website that has a list of places nationwide who are holding pro-democracy protests at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Now that we have the holiday weekend here. gwbush.com. www.gwbush.com has a list of those places. Also, in the opening article on it, there's a link that says, Bush is quoted saying, almost nobody voted for me, but I still won. Oh, yeah. He still won because the fix was in beforehand, ahead of time. And not only that, but his brother told him that he won, so that must have made it so. Didn't that make it so? Yeah, his little brother told him that he won. Here's a lady in Miami. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I just want you to be aware that I believe that Catherine Harris and Jeb Bush are a little bit more than working associates.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Let's just say I know.
Okay, and let me point out to you that as of about a half hour ago is the last time that they had the report from her up there in Tallahassee. They're still saying they only have 65 out of the 67 counties because evidently they're not counting Pinellas where there was like a 481 vote swing. And they're still saying the margin is 724 or 7-something, and all the other networks have got all 67 counties. When I got up this morning, they had them all counted at 327, which everybody knows. But for some reason, they continue trying to use those numbers as part of this big push to brainwash the public.
Well, let me tell you something. The public is not brainwashed. The public knows what's going on. And if they don't do a revote in this state, you are going to see protesting like you have never seen in the history.
And this governor, they're going to ride him out of Tallahassee on a rail. You talk about a recall campaign, he better get on his high horse and head west or south.
You bet.
Okay, sweetheart. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'll bring the tar if you bring the feathers.
Yeah, I mean, it's so blatant that they've got somebody up there in Tallahassee who is doing this in a biased way, reporting the numbers in a biased way, and thank goodness for Associated Press. This is one time we can thank the media, because they're giving us the numbers. They're in this pissing contest to see who can be first, and of course Fox, even with their ultra-right-wing numbers, they've been doing the same thing, putting up whatever numbers they like, but then they finally had to come around to the same ones as everybody else, 327. And that's why yesterday when I'm watching her press conference, I'm wondering, where does she get the 1,784? That's the same number that we had before the recount started. And their response was, well, it's just a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. They hadn't changed it. They're leaving up the bigger number as big as they can because they're playing this little psych game with the public. Oh, see, it's not really as close as they're saying, and let's just get it over with. I mean, this is like Jesse James committing a bank robbery right on television, right in the middle of with what's his name, John Walsh, standing on a street corner. There's no better way to describe it. They're trying to steal. I mean, we talk about banana republics, about countries where they have all these elections stolen, like Haiti and everywhere else. third world countries. Right now, we're like a 10th world country. And I guess what? The nearly 50 million people in this country who voted against George W. Bush aren't going to sit back and put up with this crap. And I'll guarantee a lot of the people who voted for Bush don't want to see him win this way. Here's Kendall. Hello. Kendall.
Hey, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, bud.
Thanks for making the call.
I just wanted to touch on a subject here real quick that you started to talk about a little bit, the morale of the American voters right now. I want the Republicans really just to stop for a minute and think about what they're doing, okay? But more importantly, I want to take a second to apologize to the people of West Palm for what they're going through right now. I'm from up north, and I've got people calling me all the time, what's wrong with those crazy idiots down in West Palm? Listen, these aren't crazy idiots down in West Palm. Everybody has a right to get out there and vote, and I want you guys to think about what your compassionate, conservative George Bush is doing. How compassionate is it by making people feel stupid when they go in there to the voting box? You know, you got to think about, but the problem is that's exactly what the Republicans want. They want low voter turnout. So, and if there's any doubt about it, people should think about when you're back in high school or when you're back in grade school and you got to go to the blackboard and do a problem that you don't know how to feel and you feel stupid. What do? You hide, you don't go up there. And that's exactly what they're playing on right now, is that these people, next time, they're not going to go. Nobody wants to feel stupid. And you shouldn't have, there shouldn't be a chance of you feeling stupid when you're going and doing something so important as voting for the leader of your country.
That they keep telling us that we ought to be doing.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Thanks.
And another real quick point.
Real quick, yeah.
Okay, I can't believe that people really haven't come out with this statement. Is that it seems like the Republicans are saying, since there's no easy remedy for this problem, indeed there is a problem, indeed there was a mistake, then let's just put our hands over our eyes, turn back the other way, and go.
Yeah, just give us the keys. Well, I think the answer is no, and have a great day. We're not going to do it. 12:57 at 560 QAM.
This is 560 QAM. Sports Radio 560 WQAM Miami, Fort Lauderdale, a Beasley Broadcast Group station, and WQAM.com for the world.
Oh, boy, it's the 1 to 2 hour.
This is great. Somebody just faxed me this. Zimbabwe lectures U.S. on democracy. Zimbabwe has mocked the confusion surrounding the U.S. presidential election result and offered to intervene to help break the deadlock. Information Minister Jonathan Moyo told BBC Radio 4 on Friday morning that the standoff over the Florida vote had highlighted serious and fundamental problems in the U.S. over how to run free and fair elections. Maybe Africans and others should send observers to help Americans deal with their democracy, he pondered. Zimbabwe's polls in June were condemned as flawed by international observers who cited violence and intimidation before and after the election. Here's the facts that will, just the facts. Anybody can make stuff up, but I'm just reading it for what it's worth. It says, I know firsthand of a full locked ballot box in the library building of North Miami Elementary School. There's a precinct that is predominantly black. My wife, a teacher, saw it there last evening at 5 p.m. I thought you should know. Library building of the North Miami Elementary School, allegedly a full ballot box. I bet you it's got more than 327 votes in it if it really exists. No wonder they're in such a bum's rush. No wonder there's such a hurry.
People has been counted and accurately observed. In case you hear other numbers elsewhere, we should remind you CNN is using vote counts compiled by the Associated Press in individual Florida counties. On occasion, numbers released by state officials in Tallahassee will differ.
Yeah, they'll differ because they're holding them back because they want to make they're never lower, they're always higher. You know what that means? Part of that psychological warfare game that they're playing right now, the brainwashing of the public. Oh, you see, it's not really just 300 and some, it's 700 and some. Wow, I'm impressed. They're digging their own grave the way that they're doing this. They're so transparent and so obvious. God. Here's a column from the New York Times, and guess who wrote it? Adam Clymer. Now, remember, you know who Adam Clymer is? Don't you remember when George W. was up there on the stage? I think it was in Wisconsin. And they were looking out in the audience, him and Cheney. He didn't remember his mic was open.
Oh, the asshole.
There's Adam Clymer from the New York Times. He's a real big league asshole. Oh, yeah, for sure. Major league asshole. Well, he writes a column today that says, President could be picked without Florida. December 18, the day that presidential electors are to meet in 50 state capitals and the District of Columbia, may produce a political crisis if Florida's 25 votes are still in dispute. But the crisis will not be constitutional, scholars say, for the Constitution enables a president to be chosen even if a big state like Florida does not vote. Some commentators have suggested that the election will be thrown to the Republican-controlled House of Representatives if neither Gore or Bush gets a majority of the 538 electors for whom Americans voted on Tuesday. But the Constitution requires only that a winning candidate have the votes of a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. If Florida's votes are not resolved by then, or if a legal restraining order bars Governor Jeb Bush from filing a certificate listing Florida's electors, then Mr. Gore has enough votes from the other states to reach a majority of the 513 electors actually appointed. In either of those cases, or if either Mr. Gore or Mr. Bush gets Florida's votes, the House of Representatives would have no role in choosing a president other than participate in the January 6th ceremonial counting of the votes in a joint session with the Senate. The time gaps between actual voting, electoral college meetings, congressional certification of votes, and actual inauguration were dictated by bad roads in an era when it took President John Adams 17 days to get to the White House from Boston in 1800. In fact, the 4 months provided in the coach era were shortened in 1934, the railroad era, but only to 10 weeks. Inauguration day was moved up from March 4th to January 20th to reduce, though hardly eliminate, the lame duck period in which the administration, either ending voluntarily or rejected by voters, continued in power. How do you like that? So if Florida gets tossed out by a judge and they rule that the election here was unconstitutional, that gets it down to 513, which means 256 would be half. He's already got 260, and Oregon would be 267. And even if they should, like Iowa, 7, that still makes it 260, yeah. Or even like, they can put a combination of a couple of them in there, and there's still 11 up in the air. So, okay, where are we going? Here's Fort Myers. Hello.
Hello, Neil.
Yes, sir.
I know he's online and bought a keychain.
All right.
Maybe with all this information coming out now, you can get another keychain out there. I want to talk about the big lies, and thanks for bringing up that business about Buchanan in 1996. I mean, if this thing goes to court, all they really need is that chart to show that little spike.
Right.
That will do it. Now, I think Gore really blew it during the campaign by not responding to these big lies Republicans put out.
I agree.
I mean, when Bush can get up there in the debates and constantly say that Gore claims he invented the Internet and the calculator and all of these, I wouldn't say they're subliminal, but they're de facto calling him a liar to his face. And it went on and on and on, and he never responded. Now, if James Carville had been there in the beginning, and that's his mistake, not getting a dog that would really come out there and bite, that would have never been there. He could not use those terms during the debate. And he couldn't have planted those lies, which were over and over again, which we know where that was perfected, right? Telling the big lies.
Yeah.
But a little levity here, and don't take this really seriously, but I was watching the ceremony in the White House, the presidents, and Bush was up speaking. That's former President Bush. And it was 11:15, and he claimed that he's going to have to get out of there. He has 11:15 flight to Spain. And I'm thinking, but he's going to leave his wife there. But maybe he had a bag of ballots to take with him. Get that dragnet thing out there again.
They're FedExing them back. Okay, thanks for the good news, pal. Yeah.
For Christ's sake, she's only got one eye.
Okay, calm down, Georgie, whatever your name is, Papa. The presidential historian woman canceled what Buchanan's been saying about Kennedy stealing the 1960 election from Nixon because of the voter fraud in Illinois. She said on the Today Show this morning, that presidential historian lady, whatever her name is, that she read Nixon's memoirs this morning, and Nixon said he didn't contest the vote because the electoral votes from Illinois would not have won him an election, which is correct. It was Illinois and Texas, as I recall. Buchanan's comments are horseshit, in addition to which, of course, Nixon wouldn't have admitted it in his memoirs, but as they pointed out, his people were stealing votes in southern Illinois, while the Daily people were sitting back and waiting and saying, how many you got? Because whatever you got, turn them in, and they did, and okay, we got a few more. That's how it worked. Which, of course, is interesting for history and for debate and arguing and fun and games, but has nothing to do with what's going on right now.
wants an expeditious but thorough conclusion of this process.
All right, Jonathan Carl with the Gore campaign today.
Okay, that's what the Gore people are saying. They want an expeditious but thorough. In other words, get it right. 8 minutes after 1 at 560 WQM.
Get the best of Neil Rogers 2000. A benefit from Planned Parenthood. Just go to a Specs Music store near you or WQAM.com on the net. The best of Neil 2000 with great hits like...
So, Paula Jones, you got a new nose. That don't impress me much.
And who could forget the Neil Rogers keychain with great sound effects like...
It puts the lotion in the basket.
That's the American fucking way.
Oh, those timeless classics. The best of Neil Rogers 2000 from Sports Radio 560 QAM.
George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit. He's a rich spoiled brat and a cocaine junkie. What's he gonna do with all that campaign money? He don't give a crap about people going hungry, but don't confuse him with the facts. We can't find your rap sheet, it just disappeared. We're looking all over and it still ain't here. Hey, Georgie Jr., where's your rap sheet go? Are you afraid that we'll find out that you did blow? You were a rich college kid, a drunken party punk, and you got pinched for possession of drugs. But a rich bitch like you can hire a judge to get some Ajax Splendor and a big head sponge. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit.
Yes.
George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit. One more time. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Come on. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Yes. George Bush Jr. is a piece of shit. Georgie Jr. is a piece of shit.
114 at 560 WQM. Here's a fax. The world mocks as America squirms from the internet. Got quotes from newspapers all over the world. But here's the one that I find really interesting. Iraq, which had previously dismissed both the American presidential candidates as equally pro-Israeli and hostile to Iraq, yesterday took the side of George W. Bush. It said the delay in announcing the result was a Jewish plot to control America through Al Gore.
Boy!
How do you like that? Now, was that Iraq that said that or James Baker? I'm not really sure. We'll double check. You see, all you really have to do, I'm sitting here during the break and I'm thinking to myself, just take a look at how desperate the lies are that are coming from Karl Rove and from the Republicans in general. They keep repeating this thing about the Chicago butterfly ballot. It's a lie. It's not the same. Close, but well, fairly close, but not really all that close, and certainly not a match. And then the lies about the Buchanan vote. See, if you just take numbers, anybody can play games with numbers. Oh, well, he got this many back in 96. Yes, in the Republican primary. Not in the presidential election. And when you take a look at how many he got in every other county in the state, every other one, bigger counties, smaller counties, any county, there was nothing even close to the 3,400 votes he allegedly got in Palm Beach. And then when you look specifically at where they came from, and you listen to people from the party itself, from the Reform Party, saying this man's full of crap. 337 voters registered as members of the Reform Party in Palm Beach County, and we're supposed to believe that over 3,000 other people voted for a Nazi like Pat Buchanan, and not only that, but they were mostly blacks and Jews. Does anybody believe that?
No.
I don't think so. So they continue spinning and lying because, like I said this on Tuesday, they think that they can talk themselves into winning. Remember Tuesday night, all night long, they were talking about how confident they were, and they were getting ready with a big celebration, and they were preparing, and now they're preparing their transition government. Not quite so fast. Slow down just a little bit. That's our suggestion to you. Hold your horses. Slow down just a little bit. Here's a mobile in Coral Springs. Hello.
Hey, Neil, how you doing?
I'm doing.
Hey, Neil, listen, the Iraqis were right. I'm the Jewish guy who did it.
Okay.
But listen,
give us your number and shoe size.
Do you remember a movie that starred your close personal friend O.J. Simpson called Capricorn 1?
No.
Okay, in this movie, they staged a TV set where they staged a moon landing, when in reality, no one had ever left the Earth.
Uh-huh.
Oh, man.
This is what's happening now. They are staging what they want to appear to be a presidential election, when in reality no one's been elected. It's all being done on television, just like in that movie. Anyway, the other thing I would like to say is thank you to every stinking one of you Nader asshole voters.
Right. All 97,000 of you in Palm Beach County, for example.
Right, for trying to turn our country into a country like France that has 1,726 different parties, or Israel, where any time they need to decide anything as insignificant as who's running for dog catcher, they have to appeal to every little factionalized political party that has 2 members in their Knesset. If you think it's bad that our politicians have to kiss the ass of the corporations, just wait until we have too many political parties and they have to kiss the ass of these Christian Ayatollahs over here.
Okay, pal. Hang on tight. Get that passport. What did I say? 97,000 votes in Palm Beach, 97,000 votes in Florida, 5,200 in Palm Beach. And see, that's also what they're crapping their pants about. In fact, they had one of their people was on last night, almost in tears, saying, "Well, gee, if they had another election in I forget which one it was in the Palm Beach, we know that maybe it was Buchanan who all of a sudden was born again fascist after he got bitched out on Fox. We know that all those people will come out and vote for Gore. Yeah." Well, that's the way it goes when you try to run a fixed election. Sometimes it blows up right in your puss. I mean, everybody who voted on Tuesday, if they're going to have a revote in Palm Beach, they should be the ones be allowed to come back and vote again for president only. Or, of course, I say president only. How about the case of the, I would say also in where the disputed results like Elaine Bloom and Clay Shaw. Here's a lady mobile in Hialeah. Hello.
Yes, hi.
Yes, ma'am.
Neil, this is such an embarrassment to the state of Florida. We are just...
Yeah. What just happened?
They got her.
Oh, they got her. Oh, she was in Hialeah. But at least we're consistent. We're always if there's any place in this country that's bound to be on the front pages of international newspapers, take it from me, this is the place. Let's see, 218,600 in the popular vote. All that talk about how, well, we have all these 2.5 million votes in the... It's still 218,500 that Gore's ahead in the popular vote. Now, what the hell is this?
It's Al Gore's biggest talking point. Joe Lieberman and I...
what the hell was that they just showed up there? With 56 out of 67 counties and what the hell is that? Wait a minute, let me go to a real network. Just one moment, please. I can't believe what I just saw there on CNN. That has to be a mistake.
Ballots cast in Dade County. Gore won that one, 39,000 votes. The computer recount showed Gore gained 62 votes and Bush gained 36 votes. Broward County, 588,000 votes cast in Broward County. Gore won it by 139,000 votes, but they're looking for a net gain in the recount, and they both gained...
Well, let me ask you, what number is Fox again? I guess it's right around here. One moment, please. Because I can't believe that number I just saw on CNN. Maybe they decided that the AP number is bogus, or that they're not going to go with that. Let me go back 1 second, please, to CNN and see if they still have that 700 number on the screen. I don't know. They're all over the place. Here's a mobile in Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
How you doing, Neil?
Okay.
I got a couple of things. First thing, if you saw Bush and he started celebrating and Papa Bush was with him, and the grin on his face, like, hey, don't forget to get my room ready in the White House.
Right.
That's just a way to get him back in because of his sour grapes when he lost.
Absolutely right.
Now, try this one out.
They took it away and we want it back.
A little conspiracy that this whole thing is about keeping Clinton in the White House, because if they draw it out long enough, they keep Mr. Bill in there without Hillary, and it becomes a big bachelor pad for all these guys on Capitol Hill.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right,
Pat Kennedy said it'll be right over.
520.
520 what?
That's the number they have at the van. Oh, I just love throwing numbers out there.
All these guys, Jesus Christ, 520. Where the hell did that number come? Well, we got $520. That's pretty weak. But again, that's because they keep doing these things over there. That's the nephew. Miguel says he's got nothing to do with that. He said, wait till the nephew's gone, then we'll get this done right. Look for Joe Costello in the QM van from now till 2, another 38 minutes. At the Citco station at the Pompano Beach Service Center on the southbound Turnpike Atlantic Boulevard with our Best of Neil CDs, cassettes, keychains, and T-shirts for Planned Parenthood. We had $46,430 going into today. You better get that damn thing going. Get that baby in gear, man. Here's Lake Worth. Hello.
Neil?
Yes, sir.
Have you actually seen the official
now
sample?
It's back to 327. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you actually seen the official sample ballot from Palm Beach?
Sure, I have it right in my hand.
Well, do you see under voting instructions?
Under voting instructions?
The booklet.
Yeah, I have that here, too.
It says number 4, vote all pages.
Right, I mentioned that. And if you vote all pages, that would disqualify your ballot immediately.
Exactly. It can't be more blatantly clear.
Right, it's an illegal ballot. You're right. I pointed that out earlier today.
Okay. It's clearly, blatantly
illegal.
Correct.
Right. Thanks. See, vote all pages. You can't vote page 1 and page 2. Can't do it. Because it's the same race. And this is why they keep pretending that they don't understand the difference. The presidential candidate, she says, I made the names bigger so the old people will be able to see it. Bull crap. They all have to be on the same page, sweetheart. They were all on the same page in my ballot in Broward County. They were all on the same page in everybody else's ballot in the other 65 counties besides Broward and Palm Beach in the state. They were all on the same page in California with a banjo on there, and in Alabama they were all on the same page. You got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names there. No problem, same page. With 1 dot next to each name. That's the way it works. Very simple, 1 dot. Not the little dot stuck in the middle between 1 and 3. No way. Sorry, but wrong. Wrong. Unacceptable. Here's a mobile in Miami. Hello.
Hi. I think that not only was the ballot in Palm Beach County illegal, but the entire Florida vote was illegal and has been for years, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
In Florida statutes, you can look it up, Section 9, 101.28 states that the minimum requirements for a voting machine is that a voter can vote for only as many candidates for office as he is entitled to and no more. This has been on the books since at least 1995. Every voting machine in Miami is not in compliance with that law, and basically the Elections Department in the state of Florida has been screwing it to the voters here since at least 1995, and I don't know why nobody's done anything about it.
Probably because they're dumb.
Well, the fact that we heard that 15,000 ballots were put on in Broward in Palm Beach County in 1996 is just testament to the fact that, that this has been going on for a long time.
Absolutely.
Look it up.
Okay, thanks. You can look it up right on our website. 101.28, requirements for voting machine. All those Florida statutes, voting statutes are on there. Good job, Eric, as usual. NeilRogers.com, and you can read it for yourself, what he just was talking about. This state can't do anything right. There is nothing we can do right. We have dead people who vote. We have elections. If you're in favor of it, vote no. If you're against it, vote yes. Everything that's done here is to confound and confuse the voter. And I'm going to say it again. This is the most important thing of all. And I told you this before the election. All of this talk about embarrassing the people and you got to get out and vote and participate, and it's so, the country's embarrassed by the low voter turnout. They don't want you to come out, especially the Republicans. Because if we have a big voter turnout, it means minorities came out. A lot of women came out. It means people who are more likely to vote against them are going to come out. We have an elitist government. Government by the very few of the very many. That's the way it works here. Not for the people and of the people. That's a lot of bullcrap. Sounds great.
More just or more enduring than ours. I hope that our friends in the Bush campaign will join us in our efforts to get the fairest and most accurate vote count here in Florida.
No.
Respect for democratic principles and for the fundamental precept of our Constitution that the people should decide requires no less. No. I think as we move forward, it is implicit for all of us and all those concerned that we carefully measure all of our words, recognizing the high stakes involved in these deliberations. Secretary Christopher and I would be happy now to answer a few of your questions.
Okay, William Daley, campaign chairman, 127 at 560. Come on, get some dead people from Chicago, Bill. Bring them on down here.
This is 560 QAM. The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
I'm dying over here.
Coming to a theater near you, the legend of Bagger Vance.
Don't forget what to say before you hit that paper or plastic. You're good.
Matt Damon, as you've never seen him before, and Will Smith in his most heartwarming role ever.
Boy, you better not put those canned goods on top of those tomatoes.
The legend of Bagger Vance, coming to a supermarket near you.
Clean up on aisle 11, please.
131 at 560 WQM. We got Hank coming along at 2 from San Diego. We get ready for football out there this weekend. Dave wants that show with the Mad Dog, 5 o'clock. Geldy on game night from the Hard Rock Cafe at 6. The Calgary Flames here to play the Panthers. We finally found a team that maybe we can beat. You think?
No.
Well, maybe. 7 o'clock tonight pregame, 7:30 game time, and then Eddie K after the game with the over-unders on the ballots. Here's a lady mobile in Coral Springs. Hello.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
I'm okay.
First of all, I'm from Chicago originally, and I grew up in the Daley era, so
you know all you need to know about.
But I was never old enough to vote when I was there. But I do remember the big voting machines. Mom always took me. It was a school holiday. I remember all that. That's what they need. We need a national holiday for Election Day. The other thing is, the gentleman that called earlier about when Lincoln Diaz-Balart was on with Larry King.
Yeah.
Well, the opposing viewpoint was Robert Wexler, and that's who brought up the, we're not in Cuba here, Lincoln. The other thing Wexler pointed out is the Republicans are throwing around that figure, that 15,000 ballots in 96 that were thrown out. Wexler said it is not that high. They are misrepresenting the facts. The facts are it's only something like 7,000 that were thrown out for over-punching, not 14 or 15,000.
Right.
And the other, I just thought it was really kind of interesting because he also pointed out, here they're throwing out that Chicago ballot in Daley's face and in Jesse Jackson's, both who are registered in Cook County, who vote in Cook County.
And both of them,
that
they know
is
better.
never used for presidential elections. It is only for judicial elections only.
And even when they do that, they have each race on a separate page.
Right. And I mean, he sat there and he specifically said, they keep saying this thing in Cook County, it's basically, he said, it's false.
But doesn't it show you how weak their argument is? I mean, they keep repeating the same lies over and over again, just like the business about Buchanan and how, the great support he's got in Palm Beach. I've got pages here of stuff from the Buchanan people, from the Reform Party people, saying that it's a pile of crap, that he has no support in Palm Beach.
I know, and what I can't understand is, has there been any decision today? I mean, I thought the recount was definite by hand here in Broward and down in Dade, but has it been okayed yet?
No.
It still hasn't been okayed?
You're talking about the Palm Beach vote?
Well, no, I know they're going to recount 1%, the 1% in Palm Beach and in Pinellas. But I guess the paper was saying this morning that Miami-Dade and Broward had not agreed to the 1% recount by hand yet. Now, is that still on?
No, I already read that. They're meeting Tuesday morning to decide whether they're going to go along with it or not.
Oh, okay, because I hadn't heard if there had been a decision yet. And the other thing, I need to ask you, did the number change? Did it go up to 500?
No, that was CNN screwing around. I think they were showing. You really have to be careful when you have the audio down, because if you just watch the video, it was something from the past, from yesterday. It's 327. That's complete. There's no more counties to count.
Okay, and finally, the last thing, I don't know if you've been listening to anybody else, but we listen to you, we turn off for an hour, and then we go to Randy. We're probably one of the few people that can pick her up down here in Broward. Randy, well, let me tell you, Randy went in at 3:07 on Election Day and started saying, I think I voted for Pat Buchanan.
Really?
Of all people, Randy Rhodes was saying, she's freaking. She's saying, I don't know if I voted for Pat Buchanan. I may have voted for the Socialists. I don't know. I just don't think I voted for Gore.
Oh, my God.
And she's not over the age of 100 yet.
Oh, no, she's my age.
Right.
And as soon as she said that, her phone started ringing off the hook with people saying the same thing. She said yesterday, if they have any doubt that we waited here in Florida till after the results were in, fine, I will take to court my tape saying at 3:07 I started saying I voted for the wrong person.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I just want to let you know.
Good luck to us.
You know it, Neil.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye. I'm looking at the editorial in the Herald this morning, Palm Beach vote. It said, Mr. Buchanan received more votes in Palm Beach County, 3,407, than anywhere else in the state, nearly 7 times as many as he collected in Dade, which has twice as many voters. Also, most of the Buchanan vote came from heavily Democratic precincts where many Jewish residents vote and where his arch-conservative politics are reviled. Reviled. As in, makes him want a breath. That is correct. But the page, I'm saving this one. This was on page 22A in the Herald this morning. And shows that says Palm Beach protests spreading and the people are madder than hell and they don't want to take it, which I don't blame them. But at the bottom of the page, and it shows the shade, it's even got a map. The shaded areas denote precincts in which Patrick Buchanan received votes far greater numbers than he did in the rest of Florida. This is a map of Palm Beach County. And it documents the fact that in heavily black areas and heavily Jewish areas, this is where most of his vote came from, like the Herald editorial says. Obviously, people who intended to vote for Al Gore, but were confused by the illegal and misleading ballot. Now, when you're talking about probably in the neighborhood of 3,000 votes right there, then you begin to understand why James Baker and all these other assholes, and Kathy Hughes, why they're all in such a big hurry and giving the bums rush. They don't care about bringing the country together. They don't care about, your vote and about the people, power to the people, all that bullcrap. What they want is they want the keys to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue now. Give them the keys. The furniture's on the way. The moving vans have been called. They want the keys now. And of course, our answer is no.
Well, they've invested way too much money to stop now.
Yeah, that's true. That's fine. And you can just imagine the stuff going on behind the scenes, the oil companies, the NRA, the tobacco companies, the pharmaceutical companies. Wall Street's in the crapper. Dow is down 134 plus points already today. And if they ever flip the damn thing past the time on there, I can tell you the NASDAQ is in the crapper too. If they ever flip the damn thing on there, got 113. Because the big money interests don't like this. It's starting to look real bad for them. Because their hand-picked boy, the man who's going to help them pollute the environment and rape the public and continue with those record-breaking profits, they're not too happy about the prospect of him not being able to steal those goddamn elections.
This is 560 QAM.
You're a bastard.
She won your heart is the miracle worker. Despite her handicaps, she left behind a lifetime of achievements. And now, with the discovery of rare audio tapes found in a basement somewhere in New Jersey, Def Jam Records makes available to you Helen Keller Sings the Blues. A series of recordings from the 1950s by Helen Keller herself, wailing out a pound of sound. To order yours, have your credit card ready and call 1-800. Order now and get a bonus disc of Duets by Marley Matlin and Johnny Ray.
144 at 560 WQAM. They're talking about the overseas absentee ballots, and of course the Republicans are trying to assume themselves into those because past shows this and shows that. But of course we never had a Jewish candidate for vice president before either, and they're pointing out on the Democratic side that they made a very intensive lobbying effort to get the Jews who are living in Israel overseas to mail in their absentee ballots for Gore and Jew Lieberman. And of course James Baker, when he heard that, said, "Oi!" Here's a call from Jupiter. Hello.
Yeah, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that whole Texas crew, they really get under my skin. From Baker to that cat woman, Karen Hughes, to this guy,
dyke-looking Karen Hughes, yeah.
Don Evans. We're going to send you back to the farm, Don.
Uh-huh.
And then who's the other one? Rove.
Carl Rove. I think he's a roving lunatic, yeah.
Here's a question for you. Where is our Attorney General? Is he standing on his hands like he usually does?
Bobby Butterworth?
Yeah.
He's the Democrat. He's the state chairman of the Gore campaign.
I know he is, but the fact is...
So he, as much as I can't stand him, I don't want to make excuses for him, but he can't go really overboard here because otherwise, it puts him in a position of being too partisan.
Yeah, but Neil, he can't be intimidated up there in Tallahassee either. I mean, if he's sitting up there... And
but didn't you see when he was standing next to Jeb? He comes up to Jeb's waist, so, he's easily intimidated.
Well, if the number of absentee ballots issued can be counted, as you pointed out at the beginning, and I think this thing in Pensacola is huge if he just gets on it. If the number, they can be matched up, all those ballots, those are not secret ballots. you should be able to match those up 1-to-1 with a person, shouldn't you?
No.
You can't?
No.
Well,
they are secret ballots.
So when they're taken out of the envelope...
Once they take tear the top off, that top part, and they put that in there, and then you stick your ballot in there, that's the end. They have no idea who voted.
So he can't trace if they have dumped a bunch of them in Pensacola.
No, you're talking about that. No, they can't trace that, the absentees. But as far as the ones in Palm Beach, I mean, they can trace the district that they came from.
Uh-huh.
Because they know the precinct that they came from, because they know which precinct turned them in. They keep a record of that, and that's where a judge can say, well, this is obviously inconsistent with the voting pattern, and these votes were intended for Al Gore, clearly.
Well, like for instance, you said that the number that
I haven't said that, but a lot of people have said that is a distinct possibility. In fact, maybe there's a better possibility of that happening than there being a revote, another election, is that the judge would say, well, based on whatever, proportionally, we're going to give so many of these votes to Al Gore, because that's obviously what they intended.
That's right. But the thing is, the number of absentee ballots that are issued to people, they do have to have those lists, don't they, of the people that were issued?
If they have a list of that, I'd like you to tell me how come on Election Day it went from 350,000 early in the day to 500,000 to 9 o'clock at night when they were saying, well, there may be as many as 1 million absentee ballots in Florida. How could it go from 1/3 to over 1 million and nobody has any idea how many there are? I don't get that.
And that's where the fraud is, and that's where the trail will lead to. If the Attorney General does what he has to do.
Okay, well, tell him to get some stilts and get with it. So send him out there to Stiltsville and get his ass on it. It'll be like an airline selling like 6,000 seats for a plane that seats 270 people. Don't they do that? Oh, I forgot, yeah. Especially America West. Worst. Here's Miami. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Neil, how you doing?
Okay.
Neil, can you explain why 96% of the voting people in West Palm Beach got the vote right and only 4% of the moronic left-wingers got it wrong?
Oh, moronic left-wingers. There we go. That was very good, my Julio friend. Moronic left-wingers got it wrong. Huh. So I guess the people who voted for Gore or Nader who got it right, they're not moronic. Only the ones who got it wrong are moronic. Huh. I'm trying to figure that out, amigo. Here's Kendall. Hello.
Yeah, the law says that if you vote twice, your vote is nullified. Hello?
I'm listening.
So what's the point?
What's the point of what?
If you're a dumb voter, you should not vote.
Uh-huh.
Your vote is nullified.
And what about the people whose vote was intended for Gore and went for Buchanan? What does that have to do with voting twice?
I'm talking about the ones who voted twice. 1,900 of them.
Well, no, 19,000. You're calling people dumb. It was 19,000, not 1,900. I love the people. You can tell in their voice. You listen to them. And you can tell what rocket scientists they are. Oh, yeah, you're all dumb. You're dumb. I'm smart. Not like Fredo. Yeah, he was smart, not dumb like everybody said. Just like you, sir. 1,900. There's another something on there that I think if you look in the mirror, it's kind of like you, another zero on there. 19,000. They don't need the 19,000. I mean, they're going to look at that, obviously, but there's certainly more than just in the Buchanan vote, in the bogus Buchanan vote, the black and Jewish Buchanan vote, just in there is enough to give Gore the election. I don't understand why anybody would be so hysterical about a orderly, full recount. Whoever won, let him win. I'll give you an example. If I can find them, I probably won't be able to find them. I wrote down the numbers. Gore won Oregon he's ahead, I say he won, ahead by about 6,200 votes. In Wisconsin, he was ahead by about 5,000, and in Iowa, 4,900 out of millions of votes cast. And there's no recount going on there yet, but if there needs to be, go for it, do it. No matter who you voted for, who you'd like to see win, let the person who won the election become the president. That makes sense to me. Last time I checked, like I always do, that makes sense to me.
This is 560 QAM, The Neil Rogers Show. Sports Radio 560 QAM.
It's Friday, you bastard. Have inept election officials left you confused? Here is your guide to understanding how to cast your vote in Palm Beach County, Florida. Follow along with me to see just how easy it can be. Let's get started, shall we? Joining me here in the booth is Mr. Mermelstein. Who are you voting for?
I'll leave it.
Yeah, I see.
Now, read the butterfly ballot, starting with Bush Cheney in the left column, Buchanan, Chickelgruber, Mengele, Eichmann, and Goebbels in the right.
Where's our Lieberman?
Over there.
This Goebbels guy.
Yes?
Is this the guy who makes my baby food?
No. Now simply punch a hole in the 1959 Univac key punch card.
Where? There.
Over there. Here. Use this microscope.
Oh, there. Is that it?
No.
Okay, I'll punch again. Is this
No. That invalidates your vote.
All right, yeah, I'll punch again. And then...
Do that again. I'll punch you.
Oh, for good measure.
Why, you... Stuttering old Hebe. Remember, comrades, if you want to live in Florida, exercise your right to vote in accordance to the little brother. Oi!
155 at 560 WQAM. I forgot to mention this today. Very embarrassing statistic. Not that we're not already embarrassed enough here in Florida, but even more embarrassing. New York State, the polls there close at 9 p.m. We close at 7 here in Florida, except in the Panhandle, they close at 8. But we close most of the state at 7. New York State, which has millions and millions and millions of people, had every ballot counted, every one, complete tally before one vote was counted in Dade County. What does that tell you? Yeah. Are we just a little inept? Just a little bit? Something we... Of course, you see, you can't have as much corruption. You can't have as many dead people vote when you do it like real fast and prompt like that. But when you drag it out and then you see really what number you have to come up with, then it gives you a better opportunity to call on those dead people. Make sure they get with it. Here's a mobile in Margate. Hello.
Neil, God.
Speaking.
Neil, first time, long time.
All right.
Hey, last night Letterman, he had a top 10 how do we elect a president list. I can do it real quick. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, number 10, register prison inmates to vote. Number 9, have incumbent president go into churches to ask for votes. Number 8, have a dead senator run for senator. Number 7, have a senator run for vice president and senator. Number 6, give homeless people cigarettes to get out the vote. Number 5, announce your opponent had a DWI 5 days before the vote. Number 4, keep polls open 3 hours longer in the heavily Democratic precincts. Number 3, get news media to announce exit polls long before they close. Number 2, can't get the stains out of the Oval Office carpet, so leave the incumbent in. And number 1, wait till your candidate loses, then complain you couldn't follow an arrow that points to a circle.
Mm-hmm.
Duh.
Yeah. Weak. Really weak. You think Letterman did that?
No.
No. It's very weak. Killed a good minute, though. Here's Fort Lauderdale. Hello.
Hey, yeah, hi, Neil. I was wondering if you knew anything about that CNN town hall meeting and where it is tonight.
I have no idea.
Okay, I was just curious.
I'm sure in Palm Beach, they always go to the scene of the crime.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, how come we didn't...